across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just gone 7 in the evening. Perhaps you've started to get your tea ready. Maybe you're setting off for work, in which case thank you for contributing to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the British economy. This is Mark Dolan in for Kevin O'Sullivan for the next 3 hours, and it's a big one. So, Lucy Connolly, wife of a Tory councillor, walks free. She should never have been jailed in the first place. I'll be giving my unapologetic views in just a moment, and it's not for the faint-hearted. And here we go again. Welcome to the clown world. The number of migrants in hotels has risen by 8% in spite of the temporary victory of the Bell Hotel. Turns out we've won the battle but not the war. And with an economy in freefall, is Keir Starmer, for the first time in his premiership, under tangible pressure? Here's hoping. Lawless Britain latest. Britain's most targeted shop robbed, set on fire, ripped off and attacked. But the heroic owner is standing her ground. Is it time for people power to make Britain safe? And speaking of safety, would you be willing to have facial recognition cameras everywhere if it meant catching crooks? And what about getting rid of any face coverings whatsoever? Religious, non-religious, cultural, those wretched masks. Don't get me started on the masks, Mark Randall. Got a bit of previous on that. But what do you think? Would you allow your face to be seen by cameras everywhere with facial recognition if it meant the bad folks were caught? I'm curious about your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. Book your place on the show. I've got an unrealistic ambition tonight, which is to get through every call. It's not going to happen. There's no chance, but I want to try. You can but dream. So book your place. We need to talk. We'll talk about everything tonight. We've got to sort the world out. We're going to have a laugh as well, because the weekend is coming. Because of work from home now, Thursday night. That is the new Friday for most people, especially in the public sector. The civil servants, they're in all bar one as we speak. And some of the kids did well today. GCSEs, well done, boys and girls. But there were some shocking results and horrible statistics in maths and English, which I'm no Bamba Gascoigne, OK, but I think are quite important, maths and English. Why can't we? It's 10,000 quid per year for each kid. Do you know that? In the state sector, your taxes, it's 10k a year, and we can't teach them 2 and 2 is 4, which would explain for Rachel from accounts. And they don't know about vowels or punctuations or grammar as well. So here's a question I've got for you. Is it the problem of the culture of our education? Is this liberal education the comprehensive 1960s dream where learning's going to be fun? What happened to the Victorian era? Here's my question. Are woke teachers turning Britain's kids into a bunch of thickos? You're not thick, which is why I need to hear from you. You've got common sense. After all, talk is the home of common sense. 0344 499 1000. Text us 87222. And you can also leave a voice note, which I thoroughly enjoy. I love the voice notes. Give me a call. Let's chat. We've got a lot to get through. And very excited about this. What are the telltale signs that a divorce is coming? Is your marriage under pressure? Well, I'll be asking for the key signs, and I'll be asking one of Britain's most famous married couples, the Hamiltons, live on the show. Do not miss it. So lots to get through. This is Talk, and we have to talk. Stop the world. I want to get off. A former childminder, Lucy Connolly, has been released today. Isn't that nice of the authorities to release her from jail following 300 days behind bars for writing something unwise and unkind on the internet. 300 days prison for writing something with words on her computer on the internet. So that's an amazing thing. This was an offensive post on the social media platform X, okay? It was ill-advised. It was offensive. It was wrong. What she said and wrote was a wrong thing to say and write. She's allowed to do it. This is the United Kingdom, which apparently has free speech. It was actually a horrible tweet. I really didn't like it. It was intemperate. But it was no instruction to do anything. It was figurative, it was suggestive, it was conditional. You can do this, that and the other for all I care, right? This is not Britain's January the 6th, folks. This was no incitement. It was ill-advised, it was wrong. I'm not going to defend the words. I will defend her right to put those words on the internet, to say them down the pub, and how about this for some controversy? To think those things as well. Because we're going into a dark place. Don't forget, the government are now looking at banter police in the pub. Because if a snowflake barman hears that someone's been misgendered, right, he's going to get a little lightheaded, he's going to break out into a sweat, and he can't finish his shift at the Spoons, which is an excellent establishment, I can't lie. It's the way that the food and the drinks arrive at the same time. It makes everyone feels like a millionaire at the Spoons, isn't it? You know, when you do with your phone and this food arrives, you feel, you know, like King Charles. But I will say there are other pub brands available and they're all good. But they're all blinking closing, but that's another story. So the bottom line is that we have got a problem in this country. And this is what is the kicker. This poor woman and the PTSD from 300 days in prison, I don't know what she's been through, because this is someone that is bereaved of the loss of her own child. She's been to hell and back already in her life. And by the way, she deleted the post on X that was ill-advised and foolish, but she's got every right to say it. She deleted it and she apologised, which she probably didn't have to do, because that's not, free speech doesn't come with an apology, you see. It's unconditional. Anyhow, so she spent longer in prison than someone called Daniel Ashbrook, a domestic abuser. I'll tell you how much longer she spent in prison. She spent 300 days longer than he did. He got a 21-month suspended sentence, which means when I've never understood the theatre of suspended sentences, okay? Because it's basically not a sentence, is it? That would be like if Mrs. Dolan said, I'm going to indulge you in an evening of passion. And I'm like, wow, after 20 years of marriage, an evening of passion. And she said, yeah, but suspended. Oh, so I'm on my own again. It's me and Netflix in the spare room. So look, that's wild, okay? Daniel Ashbrook, a domestic abuser, one of the most awful crimes, by the way, domestic emotional abuse. How about Mansour Khan, a doctor in possession of child images? I'm not going to use the ABUSE word because it's 7:10 and there's young folk around and it's just a horrible word, but ABUSE, right? Child images, we know what we're talking about. Can you think of a worse thing for someone to do? 8 months. Suspended. Nikhil Chopra. How about this? Sexual assault and indecent exposure. Charming. Isn't that nice? Doesn't it make you proud? Another fellow, fine fellow Brit. Suspended sentence, and this was 18 months. So with all these suspended sentences, what we've suspended, folks, the only thing we've suspended is common sense. 300 days for a foolish, ill-advised post that she deleted, that she, you know, regrets writing, apologised, deletes. She goes to jail and is made a complete fool of. My favourite, most high-profile example of this two-tier justice has got to be a high-profile individual, the former face of our glorious BBC News operation. Because don't forget, we are not worthy of the BBC. Never forget, they're better people than us, even though their income is produced as a corollary of a non-negotiable tax for anyone that dares to own a TV, just to keep Gary Lineker in gold cufflinks. So we must, they're holier than thou. You know, Talk, some other brands I could mention. I can't think of any other edgy media brands that come to mind. But you know, we're bad because we just talk about what you care about, and we're as angry as you are about the state of the world and how bonkers everything is. No, we've got to go to the BBC where the public are gaslit and fed a narrative about the Middle East and about Donald Trump, who's the evil orange man, even though he's transformed the terms with which America trades with the world, closed the border, waged a war on woke and waste, and is going to end 2 wars. Apart from that, he's very bad. He's very, very bad. The bad orange man. Be afraid, be very afraid. So we look up to the Beeb, and they're amazing, and they're so worth the hundreds of pounds we give them every year. Hundreds and hundreds of pounds to be lectured at and brainwashed and bullied by these incredibly smug middle-class presenters who I know because I've worked with them. And they have contempt for the audience, and they are disgusted by what the British public actually think. And we're supposed to look up to them, and that's fine. And they all live in gorgeous, you know, semi-detached houses in North London, which is why they loved the lockdowns, because of the sprawling gardens and taking a Labrador for a walk. It was a dream. So we look up to the BBC, especially the face of the BBC news operation, Hugh Edwards. Who, by the way, no disrespect, Philip, I never rated him, actually. I thought quite a stiff delivery, Hugh Edwards. I think it was one of those things in the media where you're just there because you've been there for a while. It's not like Talk. Talk is like the Hunger Games. You're fighting for your life here. Because you've got to keep up with MG, Mike Graham. You've got to keep up with Hartley Brewer and Cardwell and O'Sullivan, right? Phillips, right? It's feisty. And here we are, a commercial operation, and you guys need to listen and you hear the adverts. We're fighting for our lives. And the Beeb, endless stream of cash, including towards Hugh Edwards, who received almost £500,000 of your money, which if you don't pay, by the way, you go to prison even if you're a granny. But these are the good people, do keep up. And so lovely Hugh Edwards, turns out, is a prolific, you know, P word. Okay, brilliant, isn't it? What a great look. How long did he go to jail for? Well, I mean, it was the worst category of images that you can think of, okay? And in fact, the disgusting scumbag that provided him with some of these images, actually before he sent them to Hugh Edwards, said, you might not want these because the people in the pictures look a bit young, right? Literally, this horrible creep has given a health warning to the images, to Hugh Edwards, and Hugh Edwards like, no, do your worst, okay? And so how long did he spend in prison, Hugh Edwards? I need to look it up. Maybe ChatGPT has the answer. Was he in prison for 10 years, do you think? Because don't forget, those images involve a crime. Let's not forget that. Oh no, that's right. He didn't go to prison at all because the judge deemed that it was a chief magistrate accepted that he understood the gravity of his offence. That's nice of him. And he was responding to therapy. Well, I know what he'd be responding to if I was a judge, and I know what he'd be responding to if I was Prime Minister or Home Secretary, and it would not be fun at all. He didn't spend a nanosecond in jail. And Lucy Connolly, for a silly post that was incendiary, and I don't agree with it, but she's entitled to say these things because it's a free country, or at least it was, goes to jail for 300 days. It's truly horrific. So what is the best way to get imprisoned these days? It's not burglary, because that's a 2% conviction rate, and all they do is give you a crime reference number. It's not any kind of sexual assault or rape. The egregious thing about that crime is it's so underreported. What you need to do to go into prison is you need to misgender a thug. That's right. You need someone that's on remand or something for, you know, battery or stabbing, and call, you know, he reckons he's Jeanette now, and you call him Bob, and then that's it. You're going down, and you're going to do time. Misgendering someone is basically, you're in trouble for stating something which is a fact. What you probably want to do to go to prison, maybe pray outside an abortion clinic. That'll do it.
That usually does it, doesn't it?
Philip's not happy. We're coming to Philip Kisley in just 1 second. Post an image of a politically incorrect cartoon. Maybe quote Billy Connolly from the 70s. I reckon that's 6 months of hard labour and porridge, isn't it?
And it was a great joke as well.
He was quite outrageous back in the day. So they've gone mad. There's no space in prisons, but there is space for someone that writes something ill-advised. She is out, and the world's gone mad. So all we got to do, folks, I've got an idea. I think all of us should just be as offensive as possible and as outrageous as possible. Within the law, okay? Nothing that's against the law. But just get on social media, go down the pub, at the bus stop, just be outrageous and have politically incorrect jokes and dare to say, do you know what, I voted for Brexit and I don't think it's, you know, where's the calamity? We're free now, we're out. You know, just say things that the woke metropolitan elite don't want you to say. Be unfashionable and be a rebel. Because it's the only way to fight back against this censorship. And it is the biggest joke in the world that this is happening to the United Kingdom. When we were doing a trade deal with America, J.D. Vance had to say to our trade representatives, do you think there's any chance that Britain could restore free speech because we're more comfortable doing business with a country that has free speech? This is the deputy president, right? The VP, the vice president of the United States of America, explaining to Brits that we need to have free speech. So I'll finish on this. And I am furious about it, and I want to hear what you think. 03444911000. The law's an ass. The cops are poodles. And the country is going to the dogs. Your reaction, we need to talk. Philip Kisley is with me, who is a senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, which is, I'll be honest with you, that's a lot grander than my title.
This is why they have me here, Mark. This is why they have me here. It's the title and nothing else.
No, listen, you've earned it because you're massive on social media and your speeches and your journalism and everything, and you spend all day deconstructing this stuff, and you've got a much deeper understanding of the cultural stuff that's happening within this great nation of ours more than I do, because I see the headlines and I react and I don't like the look of it. Lucy Connolly, is there any argument for the devil's advocate? Is there any argument? Because we don't love the Post, right? But should she have gone to jail? Is there any argument that she should?
No, there isn't. There is no argument at all. I mean, I'm thinking about Ricky Jones, who stood in front of a load of people with a Palestine flag behind him or just to the side of him, lots of mummy knows best green voting kind of feminists around him, and he actually says we must slit their throats and get rid of them all. Now, the interesting thing about that is you see the people around him, especially the kind of the feminists, and their faces are really interesting. So they think about, they're laughing along.
Yeah.
You remember the footage?
And you can see the wheels turning.
What did he just say? And then it's, oh, it's all right, everybody's happy. You compare that to this passive tweet, because she said, I don't care what happens. She didn't say she wants them to.
Was it like for all I care or something?
For all I care, but it was in the passive, it wasn't, she wasn't suggesting that they should.
It wasn't a call to action.
It wasn't a call to action, it was just, I don't care. And the terrifying thing was that the Prime Minister said, she is, I think he said before she even went to trial, she is guilty, she's going to be punished, all of that kind of stuff. So it's all very unfair. And in a way, she's really important for several reasons. Obviously, because she's a symbol of something. And she was a kind of catalyst in a way. I think she's a catalyst for all of this unrest that's happening, because people see her and they think, I certainly do, and I bet you do as well, there for the grace of God go I. That absolutely could be me, okay? So that's one thing. But there's something else about her as well, Mark, which I think is really important. And I don't mean this in any disrespectful way. It's quite the opposite, actually. Yeah. It's her ordinariness is really important. She's a conservative white woman. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's all of those things. And she is under attack. She is the enemy. She's being thrown into prison and forgotten about. That is, one, makes people very angry, and two, it makes people very fearful. All of that stuff combined with what's going on with the immigration hotels, with the wave of sexual abuse towards women and children in the country at the moment, all of that stuff going on makes her incredibly important. Now, I think the really important thing is where she goes from here, because she can do two things, right? She can come out fighting and tell her story from her point of view on shows like this, on channels like this, and at New Culture Forum as well. I hope she does do that. Yeah. That will galvanise people, and everybody will stand up. There will be unrest for the rest of the summer. Yeah. Or she can and I would completely understand this, she would say, I've had enough, I'm traumatised, I just want to go be quiet with my family and disappear from the public eye. I fully understand if she wants to do that as well. But that's the choice she's got at the moment, and that's the choice we've got. And I think if she is watching this, Lucy, if you are going to make that first choice and come out fighting, we are all behind you.
Folks, what should Lucy Connolly do next? Let me know. 0344499 1000. I'm going to get your texts and tweets as well. We're going to stay on this. We've got so many big stories to get through. Don't forget the Hamiltons later on divorce. Not theirs, but the 7 signs the marriage is in trouble. And many outright. I mean, the GCSE results, they were horrible. English and maths. Why can't we teach our... Don't forget, this is the future, so we're in trouble. You're listening to Talk, and I'll see you in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, Mark and Philip. I think the main reason why Lucy Connolly went to prison is because she said in her tweet, if that makes me racist, then so be it. Any kind of racism is illegal in the UK, and I think she was put in prison for that reason more than the other egregious comment that she put up and then took down. Also, I'm really happy that you're back on Talk. Oh, thank you so much, Martha. That's lovely. Martha from Liverpool. I appreciate that, Martha. I'm having a huge amount of fun back here at the home of common sense. It's really a privilege to be here. This from David in the Cotswolds. Mark, on the Lucy Connolly sentence, how long did that Labour MP in Runcorn get for assault? And what happened to that Labour councillor that shouted about slitting people's throats? A point brilliantly made by Philip there. And how long ago, again, did the wife of an ex-Conservative councillor get? Yeah, something strange going on here, David, says David in the Cotswolds. Hugh from Basingstoke. Great show, Mark. You're a star. Oh, that's very... I mean, Hugh's been on the old cooking sherry, haven't you? Hugh, reach out for help. Yes. Your judgment is curtailed. No, thank you for the kind words. He says, that's bad news about the English exam results, but not unexpected. The lovely Spanish lady that taught me the language here also taught at local schools. Before even uttering a Spanish word, she said she had to spend valuable time getting pupils to understand basic grammar. Words like imperfect tense led to blank faces. Where have we gone wrong? That is a real worry. Well, I'll be discussing the state of our education system with the Hamiltons, Neil and Christine Hamilton. We're having a proper sit-down from 8 till 8:30. This is perfect after-dinner treat for you guys. As you know, they're such fun, and they shoot from the hip, and they're not afraid of being cancelled. They've been cancelled about 100 times, and they're unstoppable. So we're going to get to... we'll take a call in a second, but Philip, just in regards, again, to the previous case of the Labour councillor and the slitting people's throats, that was, I mean, I actually don't really think anyone should be going to prison for saying outrageous things. And I'm not even sure he should. I think what bothered people was the double standards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think anybody should. I think I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist. There may be one or two exceptions in particular instances. But no, he shouldn't have gone to prison. But she was, the point is, she was always going to prison, right? There was no...
Yeah.
There was the due process was a joke. It was just a form, you know, it was a formality. It was a kind of kangaroo court in a way.
Yeah.
And we the thing is, I just watched the whole thing, and I knew from the word go, she was going to prison. The one thing I didn't realise, actually, because I didn't realise they were as stupid and as bad as they are, that she was going to get 31 months. Yeah. I don't think anybody could have.
No, I might have thought 6 weeks, or maybe even 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, I thought it
nominal.
I thought it was going to be a token show of strength from our ridiculous Prime Minister, but it went so far. And it was one of those first things, wasn't it? So this was about a year ago. I think it was the beginning of August, wasn't it? Yeah. They'd been in power for a couple of months, hadn't they? Or just over a month. And it was calamitous right from the word go. They were freezing granny on the second day, weren't they? Yeah. And giving junior doctors great big pay hikes and train drivers and all the rest of it.
And calling anyone worried about the Southport murder far right.
Yeah, and so they were doing all of this stuff, and then they latched onto her, and they turned the whole country against. We pretty much hated them anyway, but they turned the whole country against them because, as I said before, they chose a mother, they chose a wife, right? They chose a woman who was just minding her own business. She had mitigating circumstances galore. She'd lost a child, and this was about child murder.
It was, and that was following a hospital failure.
Yeah.
Which has left her emotionally and mentally scarred. And she has a 12-year-old daughter. Was it great for the 12-year-old daughter to lose her mother for 300 days?
Catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic.
The impact on the human and the collateral. And I'd love to know what the cost of accommodating this poor woman was for 300 days. Well, that's almost a year, isn't it? So best part of £15,000-20,000.
It's extraordinary that this kind of way. I mean, well, they started with a 20 billion pound black hole. Now they got a 50 billion pound black hole. We know where it's all going. So this is. I think about Lucy Connolly. I also think about Peter Lynch, the guy who died in prison because he was shouting, you know, the wrong things at a protest outside one of these places. So all of this stuff, this is where the two-tier stuff really kicked in, and we are seeing now the ramifications of all of this stuff. This is why I say Lucy Connolly is a catalyst, and it's going to be so important what she does now, actually. That'll be real, you know, if she stays quiet or she really comes out fighting. I hope and pray she really comes out fighting, because again, it's going to put them under so much pressure. They need to be under so much pressure because they hate us. They are against us. They are it's almost like they're an occupying power, and they're working against us.
I think you've slammed it. I tell you what, Michael in Oxford is not happy. I'm going to take his call after we're going to pay the rent, okay? Because unlike the BBC, we are fighting for our lives here. But do you know what is keeping us absolutely buoyant? It is you. It is the millions of people that tune in to talk on the internet, online, in-app, every day and every week. And that is what it's about. And it's people power. That's what this place is, the home of common sense. And it's the home of people power as well. And we're going to hear from Michael in Oxford next, who is not happy. And I've got a question for you. For all of you, is Lucy Connolly going to become an icon, actually? I mean, OK, it was a horrible post, but inadvertently, is she now a martyr for anyone that wants to have common sense and free speech. And is there a parallel between her and Tony Martin? Remember Tony Martin, the man that shot a burglar and went to jail? Is she the new Tony Martin? We'll discuss that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Sam in Ballymena and Derek in Manchester and also Carol in Shoreham by Sea, very kind about my return to Talk. It is absolutely incredible, and it's my spiritual home, and it's a thrill to return and not just see so many old friends on both sides of the glass, but also to reconnect with you as well. And it's been 8 months since I've been in the current affairs space, and I have really missed talking about what's going on in the country and how mad things have become. And what a day to be furious with the world. Lucy Connolly, probably £20,000 of your money and mine spent accommodating this lady at Her Majesty's pleasure. Michael is in Oxford. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm very well, and thank you for joining us. Is Oxford still a no-go zone for cars?
You can say that again, and it's also run by a pathetic lab lib.
Yikes.
They are so
is that the blind leading the blind, Michael?
Yeah, it's terrible.
So, listen, tell us about this verdict of Lucy Connolly and then her release after 300 days. What do you think?
Well, what it is, I hope Lucy let her have her choice what she does.
Yeah.
If she chooses to go away and have a quiet life, leave her alone. Let that be. But if she does come out fighting, please name the solicitor and the company who gave us such terrible advice to plead guilty, and also the solicitors. Bring out the names of solicitors for the late Peter Lynch as well, who was also given that horrible advice.
So, Philip, I mean, that Michael raised a great question.
He was lovely.
Stay with us, Michael. That's something I want to ask you, Philip, but stay with us, Michael, is, you know, are we overreacting to this sentence and this is stint in jail? That is it just a failure of procedure and maybe even a mistake by her counsel? You know, are we overinterpreting what's happened here?
No. They were given guidance by the government to lock those people up before they was even locked. You know, before the case.
Right. Philip, we can't put this down to just, you know, incompetence on the part of her representatives.
No, I think it really reflects the culture in this country, and I don't think it's just now. I think it's the, you know, the identitarian woke ideology that's certainly consumed all the institutions, it consumes the police, consumes the judiciary, and all of it. It isn't just about very specific points of procedure and bad advice. It's a culture across the whole thing, which is absolutely set against people like you, people like me, people like Lucy, and there's something there that really needs dismantling. And as the caller just said then, and as I said before, the really important thing is what she does now, because if like I say, if she does come out fighting, then we are in with a chance. She is, as I say, she's some kind of symbol. People will follow her. She is so important, right? So if she does come out fighting, then we can take all of these things on, because as you know, culture is all about energy. It's all about people wanting change and people having the confidence to make change. Now, what's happened in Epping, what's happened all up and down the country, all of these amazing flags being flown right across the country, that is, for me, that is so incredibly exciting, because it's people asserting themselves again for the first time in a really long time. And I think this will feed on that confidence and help people assert themselves even more. Now, we're not talking about going out in the street and creating havoc and wreaking havoc, anything like that. What we're talking about is people demanding change, not taking no for an answer, and standing up to those authorities that hate us.
Right, which is why almost 80 million Americans voted for the bad orange man. And that was an expression of people power. And I would argue, people talk about the state of American democracy. I'm not sure American democracy has ever been stronger, because it was the entire media that tried to stop Trump winning. But he won because people were sick of the open borders, sick of the woke CRAP, sick of children at primary school being told, like a 5-year-old, that you've got white privilege, or which gender are you today, which is child ABUSE. I'm doing a lot of spelling today. I probably get I reckon I get a C in English. Michael, before you go, could Lucy Connolly be the next Tony Martin, the man who shot a burglar and was jailed for it?
Absolutely. But then again, it's still her choice whether she wants to take that position. If she chooses to have a quiet life, I hope the media leave her alone.
Michael, a delight to hear from you. Let's speak again soon. Michael in Oxford there, who does make an interesting point that her legal representative was certainly, well, given the outcome, it certainly wasn't, she wasn't particularly well advocated for, I think it's fair to say. We'll take another call on this in just a moment. But we've also got this story, Philip, of Britain's most targeted shop, right? Robbed, set on fire, ripped off and forced to tackle thieves herself. A luxury boutique owner who refuses to shut after an astonishing crime wave. And we need folks like that to keep fighting a good fight. But at a certain point, people are going to think, why should I? Why bother? Why have this hassle? And why put my life on the line for the pleasure of selling ornaments in a gift shop?
Well, this is an extraordinary story, and I was reading about this. This is up in Cheshire, and she's selling kind of luxury goods, isn't she? And she is literally having to be a superhero herself. She's fighting the villains because it seems like nobody else will.
And
do
there's
it
horrible pictures of thugs going in with balaclavas. That must be traumatic.
This is terrible gangster stuff. But Mark, when I was reading this, I was thinking about the rest of the country, and I was thinking about the fact that, I don't know about you, but I'd spend quite a lot of time in London and Manchester and Leeds and places like those, and I've seen people just going into supermarkets, going into shops, filling bags with stolen gear and marching out, and people not doing anything about it. Mainly because they don't want to get stabbed, but also because they know the police, the judiciary, they won't prosecute these people. So these low-level, I'm not saying this is low-level crime, it isn't, it's very, very scary.
Well, the police treat it like low-level, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. But shoplifting, all of that kind of stuff, it is just indicative of a society that's coming apart at the seams. It's just that our sense of civil behaviour, our sense of safety, actually, is coming under threat all the time. And it feels as though the police don't want to know anything about it. The politicians don't want to know anything about it. If you say something like, "Oh my God, it's really dangerous in London," and I've seen lots and lots of this stuff, people will just say, "I don't believe you." Well, London's a great place. Yeah, London is a great place, but it's also one of the most dangerous places on earth as well, and there are very specific reasons for that.
Once every 11 years, I'm going to defend this Labour government. Okay? Once every 11 years. So this is the moment.
Oh, this is the moment.
Strap yourself in.
Oh, you're choosing now. Thank you.
Well, the breakdown in our society, you know, the civil disobedience, the disorder, the disrespect, the low work ethic, you know, worklessness, the gangs, the shoplifting, you know, this did not ferment in the last 13, 14 months, did it? I don't think that they have answers, Labour. I don't think they had a plan for office. But how long would you say this has been going on for, this gradual degradation of the British way of life, do you think?
Oh, well, I think it's been going on for decades and decades. You can trace it right back to the post-war years. But I think in real terms, in terms of what we're talking about, I'd say from about 2015, I began to notice a real change on lots and lots of levels. I noticed the kind of authoritarian streak, the identity politics, and you can map it back. So it starts with, you know, everybody being obsessed with activism. So it starts with, I think it starts with Me Too and everybody going crazy about all of that kind of stuff. Then it's BLM. Then we all get locked down, okay? And then lots of men go completely berserk because they're stuck at home with PORN. Even I'm doing it now. And think
your spelling's nearly as good as mine.
And think that they're women, okay? Then it's the environment, and then it's it's Hamas, for God's sake. Okay, so all of that stuff, people become a little bit crazy. Throw mass immigration into the mix, throw a kind of a ridiculous ideology in schools that you're going to talk about later into the mix, and you have everything beginning to crumble. And there's one word that sums it all up for me. It's the word stupid. We've become stupid as a society. Because we've thrown away all of the good stuff, actually all of the boring stuff, like, you know, neighbourhoods, family, work ethic, all of that stuff, which is really important. And we're obsessing about left-wing ideology. We're obsessing about having the borders open. You know, some of us are, these people are. And all of this stuff is just detrimental to our way of life. And it's dangerous. And the people it's most dangerous to are women and children.
And people have got too much time on their hands. It's a sort of sign of a country that's had it too good for too long, perhaps.
I think it is, but I think it's also part of this ethos. It isn't just an ideology, it's a whole way of seeing things. And I think you're absolutely right, Mark, to say, well, it isn't just the Labour Party, it isn't just 14 months, it's been going on forever and ever and ever. But if there's one person that really sums up that kind of ethos, who represents it, who's the cheerleader for it, or he was up until Reform started being really popular in the polls, it's Keir Starmer. You know, throw Keir Starmer into the mix and Jeremy Corbyn, and there you have, I think, two of the really main issues why things are going to the dogs.
Things are going south, and you know, obviously when people stop fighting back like this woman and then the thugs win, then you've got a problem, and it looks like they, in a sense, they already have won. I don't know if the genie's out of the lamp now.
It's difficult to say. I mean, I don't want to feel as though, you know, it's all over and we just have to pack up and go home and there's no point us having these conversations and there's no point people going to work and all of that kind of thing. I don't think that's the case. I think there's always something to pull back. And you mentioned Donald Trump before. I think that's a really good example of people fighting back. They voted him back into the White House because they wanted change and because they saw someone who could make that change. We have polls today that show Reform 15 points ahead of the Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party have only been in for just over a year.
And Reform is a brand new party.
Reform is a brand new party. I remember, you know, just about 18 months ago, maybe just a bit longer, at the New Culture Forum, we used to have Richard Tice and William Clouston of the SDP, both on an even footing, because those two parties at that time were at the same stage in a level of the game. Now, Reform are 15 points ahead of the government in the opinion polls, and that is just utterly remarkable for two reasons. Very quickly. One, because they are saying what the British public wants to hear, especially around immigration, especially around identity politics and all of that kind of stuff, and law and order in particular. But two, the government are just catastrophic. There is no other word for them. Well, I used the word stupid before. That is a good word for them.
You're running out of adjectives. I'm going to give you a B+ in your English, I've got to say, which is better than a lot of our kids did today at GCSE. Most of the kids, if you're listening, well done, right? Good effort across the board. But the really worrying figures, statistics for English and maths. Hi Mark, says Philip. Sorry, I've gone mad now. David. Hi, Mark. Philip's description of the current administration as an occupying power elegantly describes them. I shall use that in future discussions. I also had a message which then disappeared, and it was about the fact that I'd received that call previously from the gentleman who said that Lucy Connolly was not well represented by her advocates and that they should be struck off. So thank you for wanting to stress that point. How about this from Anne? Mark, nice to see you. Regarding education, what do you expect when you've got the likes of Kehinde Andrews lecturing in our universities and others of his beliefs and mindset, probably in our schools? Enough is enough. If they don't like our history, our beliefs, they shouldn't be here, and certainly not teaching, says Anne. We'll discuss education with the Hamiltons, who are coming to join me for a proper sit-down from 8 till 8:30. Next up, I'm going to take your calls, and I'm going to ask you, would you be willing for your face to be available to all of the CCTV cameras and to have facial recognition in order to make the streets safer? A lot of people think it's a problem with your personal liberties and your privacies, but would you be willing for your face to be on a database? So if someone commits a crime, they grab the face and then they go visit them. Let me know if you're concerned about that. We'll discuss that next.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dave in Portsmouth is not happy. Several of your guests on Talk today have said, of course, the government wasn't involved in Lucy Connolly's trial and sentencing. What a load of rubbish. If the political machine wasn't involved, why were these cases heard in a matter of days instead of the months it takes every other case to come to trial? Lucy's trial and sentence have Starmer and Herma's fingerprints all over it.
Very good point.
Thank you for that. Joe in Wiltshire. Good evening, Joe. How are you? Joe says, Mark, I'm a feminist for a lifetime of reasons, and I found that your guest's throwaway comment insinuating that I and other feminists would have supported that disgraceful councillor's rant of cutting throats. Shame on you, Philip. So look, Joe's given you a brief slap on the wrist there.
Oh, well, I probably deserve it.
Do you accept it?
Well, no, well, I kind of don't really, because I think it's in a way I do, because it's easy to bunch feminists together. I think I absolutely respect real feminists, second wave feminists who think women are women and men are men. But I think third wave feminists, post feminists, and all of that kind of theoretical gobbledygook, they are absolutely to blame for this kind of thing. They will be the people at the borders saying all immigrants welcome and to hell with
Which is bad news for women's safety.
And children's safety primarily.
And children. And then, of course, they're supposed to be feminists, but they're quite happy for men to participate in women's sport, but they're all about the women. Make it make sense.
Yes.
I'll get to a call in just a second. Is Gary nearly ready? I'm just going to... I've got this from Jason. Mark, Lucy Connolly should tell her story from start to end, every last fine detail, expose every part, every member of the one-eyed, politically motivated two-tier establishment. We're with you, Lucy. You can be the saviour of the nation, the person that pushes the first domino over. That's from Jason. Jason, thank you very much for that. Julia is away tomorrow, and I have the privilege of looking after that slot from 10 till 1 a.m. And if Lucy Connolly or any of her folks, family members, friends are listening, we will give you an hour on Talk. Yeah. I'll do it. Kevin will do it. Mike will do it. Peter will do it. Any of us will do it, because I can't think of a better place than Talk for you to get your side of the story across. And I know that our viewers and listeners would lap it up. Gary in Leicestershire. Good evening, Gary.
Hi, Mark. Nice to speak to you again.
Lovely to have you back on the show. 300 days behind bars for writing something on the internet and then deleting it.
I tell you what, I'm not going to debate that, because I think it's an absolute injustice anyway. I think the majority of the population think the same. My 2 points are on this. The first priority for Lucy Connolly is to connect with her family. She got a daughter who turned 13 while she was banged up. She got a husband who I believe has got cancer. Yeah. Now, I'd love to hear from her, but I think, and I'm sure she will think, that her number one priority is her daughter and her husband. So let them have some time. But this is the killer. Don't forget, she was denied all home visits that she was entitled to. Yeah?
Yeah.
So the state...
That's a very good... I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Gary. That's a really important point. Considering the low level of her so-called crime.
Yeah, I mean, all right, you banged her up for 31 months. I think it's a blatant misuse of justice. But she could have had a weekend away with a daughter and a very poorly husband. But somehow or another, she wasn't entitled to that. But anyway, the key question is, what do you think her conditions are? She's on licence, don't forget.
It's a very good point.
I'm sure the conditions are going to be onerous. They don't want, the state, whoever the state happens to be, don't want her popping on to Talk, doing a deal with
it's true, by the way.
Paper media. Yeah, I'm just stating the facts. And, given what she's gone through, would you risk getting dragged back to Peterborough and Nick, when you've got other priorities? And that's the key question. And I hope there's some journo out there who does a freedom of information and says, what are her conditions? Because I guarantee it's don't appear in the press, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. The last thing they want is Lucy Connolly, if she's brave enough or confident enough to be talking to you or Mike Graham or Peter Carwell or anybody like that and spilling the beans. And I don't blame her.
Gary, sorry to pull you off there because I need to get another call, but you're absolutely right about that. I mean, Philip, I think I might have a mild character disorder, because I think if I'm afraid I do seem to be one of those people. If you tell me that I'm not supposed to do something, you can bet your life I might. And if I was Lucy Connolly and there was a condition not to go on Talk, right, for an hour and spill the beans, and if it meant another month in Nick, I think I'd be tempted to do it, because I almost think it's time to make a mockery of the system. Because if they threw her back in the slammer, there'd be uproar, wouldn't they? It would actually badly backfire. If she wanted to disrupt the system, and I'm not recommending that she breaks the terms of her licence, but if she had a mild disorder like I do, she just might consider it.
Well, we don't know what the terms of her licence are. She's going to be constrained to a certain extent until the 31 months are over. But I don't think they'll be that specific, because they never are. No. Okay. So
if they were, it would be tempting, wouldn't it?
It would be incredibly tempting. But I mean, this is the key thing, isn't it? We just want her to be able to tell her story. She hasn't been able to tell her story. It's a very, very simple thing. It's a human thing, because this is the human drama of the last 12 months. This is one woman against the machine. This is, it's who breaks the butterfly on a wheel. It's kind of, it's against the might of the establishment, and they have absolutely brutalised her.
I agree.
You made the point about her daughter. She, her 12-year-old daughter. What impact has it had on that child?
Oh, for a permanent, profound scarring. Gary, let's speak again soon. So many viewers and listeners in the East Midlands. Let's head to leafy North London. The drinks are on him. Herbie in Harrow. Harry. See, you've got too many H's there. Herbie.
Good evening, Mark. How are you this evening?
I'm very well. I want you at the end of a long, hard day, I want you to let rip on me, all right? Get all that tension out, all the anger.
There's not enough time for that, Mark. There's too much to go through. But what you're saying about the facial recognition, I have no problem with that, because if I've done nothing wrong, I've got nothing to hide. How many photographs or how much recording do you think you are through on a daily basis? Every shop you go into, every street you go down, you are being video recorded, and your face is on every CCTV that you go into.
Herbie, you're so right. And now my local Sainsbury's, I have to see a big image of myself at the self-checkout as I swipe yet another bottle of Jacob's Creek medicinal. Philip, Herbie, stay with us. Philip, what do you think about this facial recognition? It's the idea now that the authorities can, if there's been trouble somewhere, they'll go through the footage and connect your face like a fingerprint to a database. Now, I'd love them to do that with the baddies, but are you worried about getting lumped in with those folks?
Yeah, because I think it just defeats the object. I think what they should be doing is their job in the first place, and they should be preventing crime rather than reacting to it after the fact. So I think there are a whole set of circumstances why society, this country and the culture is out of control. They need to, it's effect they're dealing with. They're not dealing with cause, and they need to be dealing with the causes. Why is society breaking down? Why, if I go into the town centre where I live, why are there lots of young men hanging around who don't work, who can't speak English, who are smoking weed? The stench of weed is everywhere. We talked about shoplifting before. Why can't they get to the causes of that and deal with the causes rather than just play Big Brother and just deal with the effect?
Fascinating. Herbie, thank you very much. We'll speak again in the near future. It is a debate that's going to run that one. But as Herbie says, to an extent, we already have the facial recognition. It seems like that's already happened. Folks, we've got a very busy hour to come, let me tell you. And this will catch your eye. We're going to talk about shocking educational standards. Are woke teachers now making Britain's kids a bunch of thickos? I'll be asking the very clever Hamiltons. Sit down with the Hamiltons, right? 8 till 8:30. I've got a full half hour with Neil and Christine Hamilton. We're going to talk about the 7 signs that your marriage is on the rocks as well. Theirs isn't, by the way. They're very happy together. And I've been very happy with Philip Kisley, Senior Fellow at New Culture Forum. Philip, see you again soon.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.
You're listening to Mark Dolan on Talk. See you in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very busy couple of hours to come. It's Mark Dolan in for the legend that is Kevin O'Sullivan for the next couple of hours, and enjoying your company wholeheartedly. A few concerns, a few grumbles about Prince William being a bit of a work-shy Prince of Wales. He's performed a fraction of the duties of Princess Anne, who is many decades older than him and lower on the pecking order of the royal family. And of course now the latest is that William doesn't want to live, we're told, in Buckingham Palace when he becomes king. He's found a bolt hole in the countryside in Windsor, a place called Forest Lodge. So the question is, when it happens, will King William be Britain's first part-time king? And do you want to pay for that? We've got the perfect person to discuss that with, and it is none other than a man who knows King Charles intimately well. Grant Harold, former royal butler, spilled the beans on his own boss. Plus your calls and what are the telltale signs of a divorce coming? Are you feeling the heat? I've got to say, I've been talking about Prince Harry today. I don't think there's any hope of a peace deal between him and his father and his brother whilst that lady is on the scene. I suspect that those two are on divorce watch. But have you been through divorce? Give us your divorce stories. When did you notice there was a problem in your relationship and that it was the beginning of the end? 0344 499 1000. Let's get a little personal tonight, OK? Let's just, you know, the evening is drawing in. We've all had a drink. Let's get a bit honest with each other. But first, absolutely horrible statistics in the GCSEs with some truly historic low-level grades for mathematics and English. Are woke teachers now turning Britain's kids into a bunch of thickos? Who better to ask than two of the smartest people you'll ever meet? Smarter than the average bear. Britain's best-known political double act, two very old friends of mine, reunited at last on the national television and radio airwaves. Neil and Christine Hamilton. Hello, folks.
Good evening, Mark.
Hello, Mark. And may I apologise, first of all, to everybody for the fact that we are looking like a symphony in orange. It is not my fault. I put this on hours and hours ago. He has just appeared.
This is the only pullover I've got.
Rubbish.
Neil...
Anyway, there we are.
Well, we're in a cost of living crisis. You've seen the inflation figures. Neil, you look like you've been tangoed.
Well, what's tangoed mean?
Oh,
do you mean tasered?
No, tangoed. Forget it, honestly. He's not with it on that sort of...
Is there anything to do with Last Tango in Paris?
No,
in your dreams. You know, you're going to have to discuss Last Tango in Paris when you come off air.
I know, and tangoed.
Well, this is it. No.
My evening is destroyed.
For those that don't know, The Last Tango in Paris was a very adult-themed film. Starring Marlon Brando. I think it might have involved... There might have been food that was part of the whole romantic excursion. You know, foie gras and... caviar, champagne. Goodness no, it was X-rated stuff.
We're getting towards too much information.
Mark, I think you better stop there.
Well, I think I had. That's a sentence you'll be hearing from Neil later. Now, Christine, can we talk about the plunging educational standards in this country? We really need to have our kids leaving school with adequate mathematics and English, and right now we don't. Why is this happening?
Well, when I was at school, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yes.
A little bit of laxitude there on grammar. But reading, writing and arithmetic were the 3 absolute pillars of any child's education. And if you couldn't do all 3, you were coached, you were made to, you had to, your parents would have given you more homework, etc., etc. I mean, I was never very good at the arithmetic bit at the end. I hate numbers and figures. That's why I married him, because he's very good at them.
Well, I'm number one in this house.
Oh, anyway, we deviate. But
I've heard you're number 2, but there you go. Let's not go there.
Mark, you're right. He's wrong. I think we've lost sight of what is important. It's all now about prizes for everybody. You can't have top of the class, bottom of the class. Can't do that. Everybody's got to be fine. Everybody's got to win the egg and spoon race, and everything's got to be woke. And you can't criticise somebody. You can't. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous. And what do you expect? This is what we've got. It's predictable.
And I mean, the cultural references today are important here. I think everybody's now got a calculator on their phone, if nowhere else.
Yes.
So they actually need to do mental arithmetic and to be able to count. People writing emails rather than formal letters, and spelling, punctuation and so on go out the window in emails or tweets or social media posts and so on. And so I think a lot of kids today don't really see the point in formal grammar or being able to do the things that kids of our age had to take in their stride because there was nothing else. And I think, therefore, that standards have dropped. I don't think I'm just being a grumpy old man. I mean, I may well be a grumpy old man, but it's not just that. I do think that today we live in a culture of mediocrity as well. Instead of levelling up, we supposedly have a Department of Levelling Up, but actually the whole culture today is all about levelling down to the level of the middle, rather than giving people the aspiration to do better than they thought they could. And as a result, the whole of education today is all about encouraging snowflakes to get in touch with their own feelings, and you can't tell them that they're useless at what they're doing, and therefore they've got to shape up and work harder, because that means that we're not empathizing with them. So I think all this nonsense, which has infected education, which is now overwhelmingly a woke industry. I mean, I think about 70 or 80% of teachers and university teachers vote for the Labour Party or left-wing parties, whereas in my day it was probably half and half. So I think the whole culture of education has changed very much for the worse.
Most definitely. I mean, Christine, we hear that Tesco and Sainsbury's are having to teach school leavers basic English and maths before they're ready to hit the supermarket aisles, finishing the job that should have been completed by schools who charge the taxpayer a handsome sum of £8,000, £9,000, £10,000 a year per pupil.
Yeah. I didn't know that about the supermarkets that you mentioned, and others are available. But I'm afraid it doesn't surprise me. And then the standards that are being churned out now, yes, a lot of people do brilliantly and they get their A-levels. They go on to, not A-levels, whatever they're called nowadays.
Well, I think they are still called A-levels now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't know. And they go on to university. There are a lot of great, bright kids out there who, this is why I think this attack on private schools by the Labour Party, by putting VAT on private schools, is so misguided, because there are very rich people who can afford to pay the VAT. That's fine, but there's a load of middle-class parents for whom their children's education is the most important thing in their lives. They want their children to have the best. They want their children to achieve. They don't want them to be in a school where mediocrity is encouraged, because prizes for everybody.
I want to ask you, Neil, to what extent have politicians destroyed the British education system?
Well, they're entirely responsible for the British education system outside the private sector. 95% of kids, or whatever it is, go to state schools. And, the whole sort of comprehensivization of British education has actually been about dumbing down. I mean, I went to an old-fashioned state grammar school, and all right, it was a minority, and actually quite a small minority of all children in my day who went to those schools. But instead of improving secondary moderns, lots of which were hopeless, actually what we did was get rid of grammar schools, and therefore we equalised the schools which were substandard with the schools that were not, and as a result there's a kind of middle mediocrity which is now imposed on the system.
Because Neil, is the idea, sorry to interrupt you, because help us with the history of this. Originally you had the grammar schools and then you had your regular state schools, and clearly the grammar school was a state school as well, but you just had to pass an entrance exam and you had to be of a certain standard. So you have to, and the Germans have this, where they have the equivalent of grammar schools and then the regular schools. So was this sort of left-wing idea that if you close the grammar schools and you have all the kids in one school, that the smart kids will lift everyone up? Was that the idea?
I suppose that was the theory that we were told.
Isn't that the same as socialism? That if we're all poor or something, then we'll be rich or something?
Exactly.
Like that?
But it's nonsense, actually. I personally, I think our education system is completely misconceived, and parents don't have enough power over the education system. We don't want politicians telling us how our kids are going to be educated, whether they're national politicians or local politicians. Education is a market like anything else, and anything which is nationalised ends up generally as being a total disaster. So education is no different, nor is the health service for that matter.
No, I mean, Christine, a lot of it is philosophical, isn't it? Which is why Neil's right to point to the politicians being responsible. Because I think, you've got the teachers working day in, day out. A good number of them, many of them, maybe the majority are really good at what they do. But every 4 or 5 years, a new government comes in with a whole bunch of different ideas, and they've got to get their heads around it. Both of my sons, my eldest was previously at a state school, and my current youngest son is. And actually, it's a really good school. It's a great state school, and they did well today and everything. So, it is possible to make it work. I'm not against the whole principle of state education. But the issue is, it is philosophical, isn't it, Christine? So when my youngest was at primary school, he was so bored. And I asked him on one occasion, what did you learn? He said, I didn't do anything today. I was helping the others. I said, what do you mean helping the others? And he said that the teacher had told him that it was good for his education to teach the others the stuff that he understands, that will somehow enhance him. That is philosophically very debatable, but a demonstration of the thinking of schools in 2025, Christine.
Yeah. Well, clearly your son has inherited his father's brilliance, because
he must be adopted. Or maybe it was the milkman. I mean, he's a bit of a genius.
Who knows? But I mean, I actually think that's a mark in your son's favour, that he was asked to help the other children, because because he'd grasped it all, he'd taken it all on board, he didn't need to learn anymore. You might say that in a smaller school with smaller classes, and where he should have been taken on one side and given extra special teaching so he could forge ahead, instead of which he was told to look after the others and bring them up to your level. But that's a tribute to his natural father.
But what, as you say, should be happening, Neil, is, and by the way, my kids, like anyone, they're good at certain things and not so good at others, and it's a mixed bag, and every kid's special and all of that, and you need to give them time. But, I mean, I'm thinking back to, can you remind me, did you enter the House of Commons in '83?
Yes, I did.
Right, and that was just at the beginning of Margaret Thatcher's revolution within education. Kenneth Baker, I think, was the education secretary that transformed the face of British state education. So could you bring our listeners and viewers up to speed on, just what it is that Thatcher and Baker did that made such a difference?
Well, we gave parents much greater power within the school's structure, and we gave schools a great deal of independence from central control. And as a result of that, we created a culture of competition within the state sector. The Great Education Reform Bill of 1984 or 5, I can't remember exactly when the date was, actually followed the recommendations of a group of Tory backbenchers, including me, called the No Turning Back Group. As a result of that, I think we contributed towards the transformation of our education system from a failing system to something which we could be proud of. Unfortunately, in the last decade or so, we've been going in the other direction, and as a result, not only have parents wanted to escape the state system altogether, but we've had free schools setting up, academy schools outside the control of day-to-day politicians. Great educationists like the magnificent Catherine Birbal Singh, who has transformed the life chances of kids from very poor backgrounds in London, and she's I think, the model that we should be following. But there are so many teachers who think that she is actually the devil incarnate, and the education unions, who are totally opposed to anything along the lines that we've been discussing in this programme this evening.
Yeah.
But, we need to emancipate the education system and give power back to the people who really matter, which is the parents of the children, who should be more responsible than the state for their education.
Well, that's right. Christine, go on.
Can I just add something in there which Neil knows all about, but he's forgotten or felt he was running out of time?
No, he's been tangoed, I think.
You just interrupted me, that's all.
Well, there we are.
He was thinking about Marlon Brando in The Last Tango in Paris.
Shut up. Shut up, both of you. What you advocated, and I think it was in 1979 when Neil stood in the general election up in the north. He didn't get elected. He advocated in his election manifesto education vouchers, which meant that every parent voucher worth X number of pounds, and they could it was like money. They could take that to the school of their choice, and that would have made schools answerable to the parents, because if the parents weren't happy, they would pick up their voucher and take it somewhere else. But I mean, it would never happen now, certainly not with this government, but that's what they need. They need more parental control in schools over their own children's future.
We pay for it after all, so why shouldn't we call the shots?
Most definitely. Next up, and the Hamiltons are staying with us for a proper half-an-hour sit-down, which I'm so excited about. Why have white working-class kids been thrown under the bus by the establishment? Academically, life chances, all the rest of it. They don't go to university. No one's talking about it. Also, people have been advised only to use electricity when it's windy. And a top lawyer reveals the 7 clues that your marriage is under pressure. And if you want to have a look at the perfect marriage, look no further than the Hamiltons, who will be weighing in on the secrets to a happy union straight after this.
Breaking news this morning revealing that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots and lots of brilliant messages coming in. Sam in Croydon, Mark at last. Someone talking sense about the stupidity of the English communist education. Of course, referring there to my brilliant guests, Neil and Christine Hamilton, who have spoken with great wisdom. I mean, it was wonderful hearing Neil talk about Margaret Thatcher's legacy in education. Listen, she's not everyone's cup of tea. No prime minister was perfect, but 3 terms, twice re-elected, on a platform of people power. So you live in a council flat, you've got a council house, and her message is you can own that and you can invest in your home and you can sell it and leave it to your kids. That is empowering people, emancipating the working class of this country. And she did the same in education. I remember the furore when she created this concept of league tables so that schools would be held accountable for their results. And the unions didn't want it. The same unions, by the way, that loved the lockdowns during COVID and loved the school closures and loved masking kids, even though the masks, don't get me started, debatable on the science there. It is truly pernicious how the unions don't want exams. They don't want marking for their teachers. They don't want their teachers to do a thing. And all they really want, I think, and I'm not exaggerating, I think in an ideal world, the unions would like the teachers to hand every child an iPad and they can go off to the common room and vape and have a, decaf whilst the kids teach themselves with the help of an iPad. That's just my theory, but maybe I'm showing my age on this one. Dan from Kent. He's talking about divorces. It's the 50-year itch. We got frustrated mid-70s with Tory complacency and voted for the disastrous socialist Labour state that destroyed any inspiration of bettering yourself. We learnt then and we'll learn again. Sit tight, people. Rocky road ahead. This from Angie. Mark, I agree. Prince William needs to up the work rate or monarchy will become irrelevant. What about his father's heavy workload and the king having treatment too? Well, Angie, I've got the former royal butler, Grant Harold, on the show for half an hour from 9 o'clock, dishing the royal secrets. Can't wait for that. But let's get into our next story. Thank you so much for that, Samara. So here we go. You'll love this. Households in the UK will file this under You Couldn't Make It Up. I think, Mark Randall, we need a jingle that just goes, you couldn't make it up. And the other one is, make it make sense. OK, households in the UK are being encouraged to use electricity when it's windy because surplus wind power can make energy cheaper. Flexible energy tariffs could allow families to save up to £375 a year by shifting their usage to times when renewable generation is high. The national grid has been forced to pay billions in recent years to turn off wind farms when excess energy couldn't be used or transmitted. Here's my problem with this, Christine Hamilton. And I learnt this during the pandemic, and I was on air here at Talk, of course, covering it wall to wall, the madness of it. What starts as a helpful suggestion always winds up becoming an instruction and a mandate. So I remember during COVID, it might be a good idea to wear a mask, it's no trouble, and then bang, you got to wear a mask. It might be good to stay home as much as possible, bang, you got your lockdowns. Maybe going to school is not such a good idea, bang, the schools are closed. And I think you're going to see the same with energy now. A polite suggestion not to have a cup of tea at peak time will eventually be in order.
Yeah, well, this whole net zero business is utter nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. And we are locally, I hate to be personal, but we are threatened by an enormous solar, it's not a solar farm, it's a solar industrial complex all around us, with solar panels 4.5 metres high. We're fighting it, and we will defeat the monstrous Ed Miliband. But if I thought that this was going to save the planet, I would have a much more benign view about it. But it is absolute rollicks, shall we say? It's rollicks.
Yeah. We know what you're saying, Christine.
The idea that you should time when you boil your kettle. I mean, how do you know whether it's windy? How do you know whether it's windy where the windmills are? You don't. It's not whether it's windy at your house, it's whether it's windy where the windmills are going round. It's so stupid and so ridiculous, and it puts the onus on the consumer, which is ridiculous.
And the point is that, as I say, what I don't like, Christine, I don't like anything discretionary.
No.
Because it never stays discretionary, is my point, Christine.
True. To me, the government has a duty to supply to all its consumers, which is every single person in this country, the cheapest possible energy. Now, what are they doing? We have the highest energy rates in Europe. It's how many times in the world? How many times higher in this country than in America?
4 times.
4 times.
4 times, correct.
He's terribly useful about filling in statistics.
He's Stato. He might be wearing a bright orange jumper, but he knows his onions.
No, but I mean, it is absurd. And we are, if the Labour government has its way, and in particular Mad Ed Miliband, we will be literally hoist on the petard of this ludicrous net zero business. And the idea that you should boil your kettle when the wind's... I mean, help me, mother.
Well, also it demonstrates, doesn't it, Neil, the fragility of renewables for energy supply.
Well, I mean, the extraordinary thing is that we've now become so dependent upon these intermittent sources of energy.
Yeah.
The wind doesn't blow all the time. Obviously, the sun doesn't shine all the time. And the sun predictably doesn't shine really at all in the winter. So you produce almost nothing from solar panels at the time when demand for electricity is at its height. And with wind, of course, the windiest parts of our country are generally a long way from population centres, and we haven't got the electricity grid to transport the electricity from the windmills to the population centres, which are largely down south. So the whole thing is nonsense. That's why we are spending £25 billion a year on subsidies to multimillionaire corporations and energy grifters like Dale Vince, major donor to the Labour Party, who's made £100 million or more out of the scams, which are the subsidies which the government pays to the...
well, of course, Dale Vince would argue that any subsidies and any benefactor that's enjoyed that windfall has been done in a right and proper and fair way.
Well,
Otherwise,
he's acting perfectly lawfully, but the system itself is bonkers, and it goes on to the cost of it goes onto everybody's electricity bills. So we're enriching a small number of people who've found the way to make millions out of gulling the public, and poor people, and really poor people who suffer in the winter because they can't afford to pay their electricity bills, are actually funding these multimillionaires. And the same thing is true of the migrant hotels. There's one guy who's made over 100 million quid out of organising migrant hotels, and yet the people at large, the people who live in Epping and places like that all around the country, are the ones who suffer the consequences. So the whole system is cockeyed and needs to be completely changed.
No, it's Rollocks. This is the word of the day, which we're allowed to say. Christine, before we get to divorce, not yours, obviously.
Please, do let.
No,
yes.
listen, because Neil can't afford it,
No, she can't afford it. I don't have any assets.
Listen, what you've got, Neil, is priceless. Okay, let's be clear about that. Christine,
you mean there's no market, or what?
Correct. Yeah. I'm afraid so.
Oh dear,
it's reduced to clear. Christine, just a word of caution on this.
By the way, do you know what the 7-year itch is?
Well, I thought literally it meant that after 7 years the marriage has got a little boring.
Yeah, but the reason for that is it's a classic time when people break up their marriages, and when you marry somebody, it's all simply wonderful and romantic and love and blah blah blah. All that.
Oh, So what? Go on. Sorry, we lost you for a second. So why 7 years?
Well, because there are things about your spouse on both sides when you get married or get together, you know that you don't like them, but you can change it. The fact that, let's take a trivial example, he doesn't put the tip top back on the toothpaste tube. We've solved that with the plunger one, so that's easy. After 7 years, you realise that the things that drove you dotty to start with, you thought you could change, you can't change. And that is what he is going, or she is going to do for the rest of their lives. And at 7 years, you just think, had enough, can't go anymore.
Well, I'll tell you a wild story, which is a good friend of mine who shall remain nameless. And he met his girlfriend at university. By the way, I think big mistake to settle down at university. Second year.
We did that, darling. We met when we were 18 and 19.
Yeah. But Neil wasn't faithful. It's not the same.
He jolly well was.
Whoops, careful. Well, you're a rare example of that. Well, go on then. Tell us about your courtship. Go on.
No, because you were going to say something far more interesting. We had a bust-up. We courted for about 3 years. We then had a bust-up for 5 years. Then we got back together. Brilliant.
I see. So you had the 3-year itch, as it were.
We had the 7-year. I was cast into outer darkness for 7 years.
No, you weren't. Nothing like that.
Did you stay? Were you friends?
I was in 1971, and I came back into my life in 1978.
Yeah, more comebacks than Tony Benn. Did you stay in touch during the fallow years?
Christmas cards.
Wow.
You see, the young, the wokies today, they cannot, obviously they can't, it's not their fault, they cannot understand what it was like without mobile phones, with no internet, with no WhatsApp, no nothing. You had to write a letter.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same if I had sent you a moon pig, would it?
I'd love to know what a moon pig is. Well,
it's a digital card company.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's very contemporary of you, Neil. We'll have to explain tangoing later. In the mail, we have got a top divorce lawyer. He's the divorce lawyer to the stars, and his name is James Sexton. He's a very articulate guy, actually, and you should definitely use him when you need him, Neil. Here we go.
I'll get him first.
Straight in there. Here we go. There's 7 things that demonstrate a divorce is coming. You're no longer presenting your best self. You're having less sex, right? Less action in the bedroom. You're forgetting the small things, little gestures here and there, buying flowers, organising date nights. Too critical. Overlooking their other relationships. That means that you're not nice to the mother-in-law or her sister. You're not saying the little things out loud, such as, I really don't like it when you leave a wet towel on the bed. You don't know how to fight. Fighting is an art form. And the last one, you're comparing your relationship to a rom-com, which of course presents an idealistic vision of a good marriage. What is the secret to your great marriage, folks?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. And this is serious.
Is it broadcastable?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
That's a shame.
I know my place. I think that's...
No. It is...
Give him a slap.
Shut up, both of you. It is luck. It is luck to meet the right person, and you don't realise it at the time, and I didn't realise it, he didn't realise it, but now, 45 years later or whatever it is, we do realise it. It's luck, and then it's lust to get things off the ground to start with.
Family show.
Well, it's quite important, especially when
on the ground.
When you're young. It wasn't the ground. And then there's love, and then the other massive ingredient, of course, is laughter.
Well, there you go. Well, when's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we spend all the time. And do you know, you're quite right about little things. I mean, I don't want to get soppy and silly, but not a day goes by without us both, not at the same time, just telling the other one that we love them.
Well, that's... And do you know something? We love you. We love the Hamiltons. And Neil and Christine, it's so great to see you again. And you were very lovely and sweet after the brief career interruption that I enjoyed a few months ago. And you were straight in touch. Neil was there with legal advice and everything. I'm like, I'm taking this to the Supreme Court. We're going to Strasbourg, baby. So I do appreciate your wonderful friendship there.
We're delighted that you've been reborn.
Well, I have. Maybe it's the afterbirth or the placenta, but it's a great thrill to be back.
Do stop it. We know what it's like to be down, and so it's wonderful to see you on the up.
Oh, look, thank you so much for that. Well, listen, the Hamiltons, a national treasure, I think you'll agree. Britain's most famous political double act. Neil and Christine will catch up soon. Thank you for entertaining not just myself, but my many viewers and listeners. Listen, don't forget, really special guest at 9 o'clock. The King's former butler, Grant Harold, is a lovely guy, and we're going to talk about Prince William. Is he going to be the part-time king? He won't live in Buckingham Palace, and he doesn't do that many engagements. So is this the beginning of the end for the monarchy, or is he going to stick up for his former boss? We'll discuss all of that at 9. A sit down with the King's former butler. But next up, we're going to speak to one of the country's former top cops about the extraordinary news that the Southport killer has won back his TV and DVD player perks in prison after hurling boiling water at a guard as bosses, wait for it, bribe him to behave. This is a triple murderer who's being cozied up to by prison officers. We'll discuss that with the brilliant Peter Blexley next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, folks, listen, let me get to a couple of your quick texts before the brilliant Peter Blexley joins us. Mark, love the show and the Hamiltons on your show. Intelligent conversation with loads of humour. And you read my text. Oh, that's Angie in Gloucester. Oh, it was Angie, now we're Ange. This is, you see, things are... The relationship is growing. Angie, thank you so much for that lovely text. How about this from... I'll get to the board in just a moment. Oh, yeah. Steve says, here's what should happen to Lucy Connolly. Even though she now has a criminal record, Donald Trump should invite her to the USA. That would annoy Starmer's strawberries. That would... Oh, sorry. I've had to, edit that one. That would urinate on Starmer's strawberries. Very poetically put. Steve, thank you for that. Keep those excellent texts coming in. Hugh from Basingstoke says, Lucy's imprisonment is so wrong. She said what you'd hear down the local any night of the week. Is Starmer going to police the pubs next? Well, I fear he is. The calls are stacking up now, but we need to talk about the Southport killer, and it's an extraordinary development. This is Axel Radicubana, who has won privileges, including a TV and DVD player, to encourage him to behave. This, of course, is the triple child killer, who is one of the worst monsters in British history, who, whilst in jail, hurled boiling water at a guard. That was in May, and had his regime raised from basic to standard. Well, those shouldn't be the words basic to standard, should it? It should be unpleasant to hell on earth. That's what it should be called. It means he gets more money to spend in the canteen plus time out of his cell. Radicubana, who's 19, also has increased access to workshops, the library and the gym at HMP Belmarsh in southeast London. A source said it's outrageous that they've raised him to standard. They're basically bribing him to behave by saying, we'll give you a telly and you can keep it if you don't attack anyone. One of the country's former top cops, and what a shame he's not still in post and on the beat. Former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley joins me now. Peter, what a lovely treat to have you on the show. Good to see you again.
It's very, very nice to appear on your show. Thank you for having me.
Well, Peter, this will enrage the public, and rightly so.
Understandably. First of all, I must, of course, give tribute to the honour and the memory of Bibi, Alice and Elsie, and also the other children that Ruda Bakana tried to slaughter during his murderous rampage, and finally not forgetting those courageous adults who were left with life-changing injuries and who tackled that absolute piece of vermin.
Yeah.
Now, going on to this story, this very important story brought to us today by The Sun, another piece of sterling journalism from that newspaper.
Yeah.
It is utterly ridiculous, ludicrous, and an insult to the memory of those girls that Ruda Bakana should have his status raised from basic to standard. But the real revelation, which I bring to you this evening, comes courtesy of the wonderful Ian Aitchison, a former prison governor and very much an inside and reliable source when it comes to all matters to do with the prison and the prison estate. He has revealed this afternoon that the state describe Ruda Bakana as a boy with needs. That is astonishing and gives you such a clear insight into the woke, liberal, hand-wringing, pathetic and frankly dangerous thinking that pervades not only senior people in the prison system, but the sentencing council, the parole board, and many other aspects of public life today.
Do we know whether he'll spend the rest of his life in prison, Peter?
He was given a minimum term of 52 years, so he will be 70 when he is eligible for parole. Personally, I doubt very much that he will ever be released because, of course, this is a person who has a premeditated violence in his mind all the time. It's what led to the Southport tragedy. It's what led to the attack on the prison guard. And so he is absolutely, I would think, quite probably the most dangerous person within the prison estate. And I don't see that 50 years in jail is going to change him. I'm sure he will remain as lethally dangerous till the day he gasps his last. And personally, that can't come too soon for me.
And 50 years at Her Majesty's pleasure will cost hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of pounds to the taxpayer. Could run into millions eventually, I suppose.
Yes, it will. And of course, many people will argue for a much cheaper option, which would be to put a rope round his neck and let him fall to his death. But incarceration is a real punishment for these kind of people who so often can't handle it. Look at the multiple killers, Harold Shipman and Fred West, for example.
Yeah.
They couldn't deal with lifetime incarceration, and unfortunately they were able to take their own lives and thereby evade it. He'll have a miserable time, but he should not have had this raising in standards merely to try and placate him. He should be on the lowest level with the lowest of privileges and a very miserable existence.
I should point out His Majesty's pleasure, of course, these days, and £2.1 million is the ballpark figure, although perhaps might go up. I mean, what is the best way to deal with someone like that, other than incarcerating them? What would you think to be an appropriate scenario for someone like Rada Kubana in jail? What would it look like, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, to get him out of his cell, it's taken 4 prison officers in full riot gear. That's how dangerous he is. And, of course, they're having to do that each and every day that he goes out.
Which takes a huge resource in a prison with other dangerous men.
In prisons that are understaffed.
Yeah.
A lot of them are tinder boxes. A lot of the staff now are young and inexperienced, and they're not paid enough. And they're expected to work on the front line for 50 years before they get a pension, which has also been nibbled away at by various governments. Runa Bakana, because of his propensity for planning and then carrying out lethal violence, has to be treated very, very carefully. But as long as you've got people within the system saying he's a boy with needs, which is so deeply, deeply insulting to the memory of everybody that he killed and injured, then I'm afraid we might see his level of incarceration being given even more sickening privileges.
Phil has texted in, and he's been pretty powerful in his remarks, Peter. He said, "Hi, Mark, bribe that scum to behave. What on earth is happening to this country? After what he's done, he should be locked in a small cell with nothing but a bed and toilet facilities and fed nothing but the basics to keep him alive, although he shouldn't have even been that. Bring back hanging and it guarantees he behaves." Why wouldn't you want this character swinging from a noose, Peter?
Because I believe that a lifetime of incarceration is the real punishment. Every day in their sad, pathetic, banged-up lives, they have to confront the consequences of their actions. And as I say, by the example of West, Shipman and many, many others, it just goes to show that it's intolerable for so many people.
Peter, what are your wider thoughts about the state of crime in this country at the moment? Shoplifting in particular strikes me as one of those, you know, on the face of it, minor crimes, but represents a significant malaise in our society.
Well, you'll forgive me, but I have to put you up there. There are no such thing as minor crimes or petty crimes or low-level crimes. These kind of expressions have been dreamt up by university-educated senior police officers in an effort to try and justify them doing nothing about them. It is not a minor crime if you are that one-man band shopkeeper and that £20, that £30, that £40 worth of goods that keeps disappearing out of your front door, having not been paid for, impacts upon your weekly profit and loss spreadsheet. It is not minor. It is not low level. If you have your phone stolen, upon which you can have your entire life, including your banking, and you can have that account cleared out, when you have many other things, credit cards and the such like. It's not low level if you cycle to work every day and a thief comes along and nicks your bike. These are not low level, petty or minor crimes. They are important, but we have a police service now, instead of a crime battling police force, that quite frankly does nothing about these crimes, which is why public trust is tanking and the police are becoming increasingly despised. Because they don't patrol the streets, that's why the criminals rule the roost. And because we have weak, pathetic governments with liberal, woke, fluffy ideology flowing through them, is it any surprise that we sadly live in an increasingly lawless Britain?
Like I said, isn't it a shame that Peter Bleksley isn't still on the beat? Luckily, he's an experienced former Met police detective and telling the absolute truth about the state of crime in our country. Peter, a delight to see you again. We'll catch up soon. My thanks to Peter Bleksley there for what was essentially a call to arms, really, for a change in culture in our policing, a completely different attitude to crime and incarceration. Next up, we're going to get to all of your calls. Are woke teachers now turning Britain's kids into a bunch of thickos? That's next.
There's no prison spaces.
This is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Are woke teachers turning Britain's kids into a bunch of thickos? I'm delighted to welcome the very intelligent Grace, who's in the capital, London town. Hi, Grace.
Hi, I'm certainly not very intelligent, but thank you anyway.
Of course you are, because you spoke on the show the other day and it was very wise what you had to say. Where are we going wrong? Because funnily enough, Grace, I don't really want to demonise the teachers, because I think that they've got a curriculum to deal with and they're working in a certain culture which comes from years and years of political interference. Most teachers work hard and do their best. So where are we going wrong?
I think what struck me about my experience at school was that it was just not cool, although that's probably a massively outdated word now.
Groovy?
You know what I mean? To try hard at school, and I was really kind of mocked. They called me extra, and they meant that in a pejorative sense.
They called you extra?
Yes, that was the word that was used at the time.
And why was extra meant to be an insult?
Because what they meant in context was that I was putting in too much effort, and they thought that was very weird.
Oh, my God.
And I think that's quite typical. for quite a lot of kids. And I slightly worry now that kids increasingly might be getting the message that they could have a career as an influencer or such like, and therefore they don't need to try their hardest.
Yeah.
And so I think it's partly about that, more than necessarily about teachers. Although I would concur that you shouldn't need to give a prize to every child to make them feel good about themselves, as your guests earlier were saying. I think there can be some kind of balance where kids are made to feel valued, but also can learn that you'll get different marks at different points.
Yeah.
I'm remembering when I got my GCSE results, seems like forever ago now, and having this long car journey with my dad to go and collect them because it was the summer, so we were travelling from Bournemouth to my school.
And that was not a fun drive?
No, it was great. I had a long discussion with my dad about all kinds of things, and he had been a teacher actually, although he stopped because he found teenagers just too riotous, and this was decades ago.
Yeah.
But he talked with me about the meaning of my name, Grace, and why he'd called me Grace, and ultimately that he believes that we don't earn from God our salvation, that we're offered it without earning it. And that's really stuck in my mind, and I have that memory in my mind more strongly than actually getting my results themselves. I didn't believe it really at the time until I came to look later into the evidence for Jesus' resurrection. But I think that when your guest said what's important, we've forgotten what's important. We need to remember that teenagers are valuable as human beings, not only because of their results or lack thereof, and that's something to keep in mind. And teenagers are going to have different strengths, and I hope that teenagers who have been disappointed by their results today know that they may succeed in other things going forward. I mean, I did like my GCSE results, but things have not worked out straightforwardly for me. But some people get really unwanted results and then do very well. So today shouldn't be something that people entirely worry too much about, because there's so many complications in life that we might not expect.
You're right, it's neither a guarantee of failure or success, is it? I mean, sometimes if someone gets great results, it means they're good at exams. Well, we don't have exams in the world of work, and occasionally once people get into the workplace, they blossom, even if they may not have been academically strong. And then I have seen some people who are geniuses that got a double first at Oxbridge who did struggle in the real world. So, like you said, it doesn't go in straight lines.
Yeah, and there are so many components of what makes up a human being that give us all our uniqueness, and that should be valued. But as I say, I think when I was in school, it was not considered a good thing to be studying, and I think that's something that we overlook slightly. I mean, I sponsor a couple of kids in poor parts of the world, and they're just thrilled to be able to go to school. They're really keen to try their hardest, and there are plenty of kids like that here in Britain. But some kids, I think they might feel peer pressure not to do their best. And maybe there's a way that can be countered slightly in those situations where that is the issue, because I think that some kids are being given a message by their peers or by social media that they shouldn't put in the best effort that they can do, and in actual fact they'll be pleased, I'm sure, if they get better results, but it's not always esteemed by peer groups.
Grace, thank you for your call. You see, I told you were clever, and I was absolutely right about that. Fascinating conversation. Call me again soon. Mark is in Lincolnshire. Is Lucy Connolly now a martyr? Mark?
Hi there, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
I've enjoyed listening to you. It's been nice having you back on Talk.
Thank you, Mark. Great to have you listening. No show without you, big guy. And Sophia and Grace and Lenny and Ray and Teresa and Jason.
Exactly.
And all my buddies tonight. Thank you for that. And what do you think? Because I think you're going to throw a cat among the pigeons, aren't you, for us right now?
100% I am, Mark. No, she shouldn't be a martyr. I think I genuinely, I mean, it's not the first time I've come out with this kind of thing about Lucy Connolly. I genuinely don't get it. Why I'll put something right out there to start with, Mark. I don't think she should have gone to jail. I think it should have been a suspended sentence, but she's no angel. At the end of the day, as reported, her WhatsApp message after the tweet is what seals it for me at the end of the day, where she's basically telling her friend, the raging tweet about burning down hotels has bit me on the bleep, lol, LOL, and that she would play the mental health card if arrested, and also indicating to her friend that she would deny responsibility for the post if she was asked. In other words, the reason why this changed it for me, Mark, is because what that proves categorically is that she was fully aware of the inflammatory nature of her tweet. She didn't care about the inflammatory nature of her tweet, and she was making a mockery out of the fact that she could end up landing in trouble with this. And for me, that's not the mark of somebody who should be a martyr. That's not the mark of somebody who's lacking any guilt in all of this.
But can't she be held account? I mean, Mark, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate the counterpoint. But can she not simply face public scrutiny for her, ill-advised and wrong post, rather than a jail or even a suspended sentence?
I think, well, again...
Can't we just live in a world where we just say that's a terrible thing to post and then move on?
We can do that, Mark. However, there's a slight problem with that idea, isn't there? And that is the fact that you don't know who's looking at it. Now, this would be no different. I'm a Christian. I have a theological and political issue with Islam in the country. I don't think it should be in the country. However, I would never dream of posting something to the effect of, burning down mosques or something. That's not in my nature, and it's not something I would do. And it's also something I know would be wrong to do. Because the problem is, the reason why I would consider it wrong anyway, even if I did suddenly decide I wanted to do it one day, is the fact that I don't know who's reading that. You don't know what the mental health condition of somebody reading something is. They could literally take your words and act upon them.
But is it really the same? Briefly, is it really the same, Mark, as saying, meet me at Trafalgar Square at 8 p.m. tomorrow and we're going to go and kill ... group of people? Is there not a difference between that and a hyperbole?
Yeah, of course there is. Of course there is, Mark. If you were in that scenario that you've outlined there, you are obviously directly inciting violence. You're planning to commit the violence, either yourself or with friends, or you're intentionally instructing people to go and do something. Literally that person there, or this person there, or that group there. You must. If you're saying you must go and kill those people there because they're this, that, and the other, then obviously that goes above and beyond. As I said in Lucy's case, a suspended sentence that would deserve prison time, because that's a clear incitement. That's clear intent to commit. Not just the incitement of the incitement of what you're saying. It goes beyond that, doesn't it? Because what you're then talking about is quite literally telling people to murder somebody or...
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Wish we had longer, Mark. Well, look, thank you for that. This show is not an echo chamber. Great to get your opinions. Next is Prince William.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to the Home of Common Sense Talk. It is Mark Dolan with you in for the great Kevin O'Sullivan, and we've got a very busy last hour to come. You could argue we've saved our best till last. You're going to get your calls on the smoking dumpster fire that is modern Britain before the end of the hour. In fact, 9:30 to 10 o'clock, it is just you and I. I'm opening the lines, and we are going to do clues in the name. This is Talk, and that's what we're going to do because we've got a lot to get through. Are you willing to have camera facial technology in order to tackle crime? Do you care about your freedoms and your civil rights as long as the bad folk get locked up? Is Lucy Connolly going to be the new Tony Martin, the man that shot his burglar and went to jail? Is she a martyr now? What should he know? Put my teeth back in. It's 9 o'clock. I should be in bed by now. What should she do next? Luckily, this isn't live, is it, Mark? And how do you solve a problem like Keir Starmer? Could he face a significant challenge to his leadership in the next 12 months? I think he could. We've got an economy in freefall. There's a border crisis. And the country is just in a state of unrest. It's a powder keg. And he looks to be a man going down a certain creek without a paddle. Has that guy got 4 years in him? I'm not sure Keir Starmer will be our Prime Minister at the next election. Let me know, can he survive? What he'll do is chuck a load of other people out first, as these folks do. Rachel Reeves, she'll go. Yvette Cooper, but then eventually he'll be the fall guy. But when? How long's Starmer got? 03444991000. I will predict that he's not leader of the Labour Party at the next election. Here's hoping, anyway. It's always good to be optimistic. So book your place on the show, 03444991000. It's you and I putting the world to rights from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Cannot wait for that because I've been in other places where I'm not allowed to talk to you. And that is the magic of Talk. It is that direct interaction. This place belongs to you. There is no Talk without you. And let's talk about our monarchy now and the Prince of Wales, who I've always admired. But he has been subjected to a huge flurry of criticism from one of the country's most high-profile journalists, Amanda Platel, the columnist at the Daily Mail, who has been excoriating about Prince William, arguing that he's a work-shy Prince of Wales, that he only attends a fraction of the functions that, let's say, his much older auntie, Princess Anne, does, and his father, Charles, who's currently battling cancer. That, plus rumours that William may not live in Buckingham Palace, may choose to live outside of London, in Windsor at Forest Lodge, which is, we're being told by some quarters of the press, his new forever home, which, fair play to him, he'll be paying for the renovations, unlike Prince Harry, who insisted that we spend £2.5 million on Frogmore before he had to pay it back in the end. But Harry allowed us to pay. William is doing it out of his own pocket, but he won't potentially be in Buckingham Palace. Is William going to be Britain's first part-time king? Who better to ask than a man that knows the royal family intimately well? He has served as a butler to King Charles. He knows William, he knows Harry, and he's always been very discreet as a former employer of the royals. He won't dish the dirt. He's not like Prince Harry. He's not going to write a book spare. What he has written is a very measured tome called The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service. And it's Grant Harold. He joins me now. Hello, Grant.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm really well and so excited that you've joined us on the show. You can pre-order the book now. It's out on the 28th, which is that next? Is it a week today?
Next week. Believe it or not, once again, as you know me, I'm on another cruise ship, and I'm getting off this ship just on the day for the launch. So they're quickly getting me back to London quickly.
Yeah, because you go on these cruise ships and you do talks. And you talk about your amazing life and career on the cruise ships.
Yeah, which is what prompted the book, actually, because people love the stories. They're all, you know me, Mark, they're always positive, they're upbeat. I love our royal family. I also do etiquette classes, fun etiquette classes, and eventually a wonderful publishing house turned around and said, can we get you to do your memoirs, which is what this is. So, but it seems to get a bit of traction, but maybe that's because I've been talking about one or two things that I think that we spoke about over the years, and of course I'm kind of putting my views onto paper, and thankfully majority of people are agreeing with what I'm saying.
Well, tell us what you said, because I know you got a brilliant piece in the Daily Telegraph which went viral. What really goes on inside the royal household by the butler who looked after Charles and his boys. What were some of the more explosive revelations?
I think it's because my memories of the family were a close family, as we've spoken about many times, Mark, and obviously that includes Harry. And because of obviously, it's been said it's the first time I've spoken out. I have spoken about it before, but maybe not in so much detail. And I've explained that the family were close. There was none of this wicked stepmother business when I was there, as far as I was aware. And, I always say butlers see and hear everything, but we're not there all the time. But from what I witnessed and what I saw, was a close family who all got on, they adored each other, a great relationship. So, as I said again over the years, to see the breakdown always made me very sad. So this has been an opportunity to give my view of what I remember, my version. And it's a very tricky line, because as a butler, what you don't want to do, you don't want to give, the reality is you don't want to give too much away, because at the end of the day, they trust you in these positions. But I wanted to make it clear that my memories and obviously his memories are very different, and that's fine. As the Queen once said, what did she say? Memories may differ.
Recollections may vary.
Recollections may vary. That's the one.
Brilliant line.
And that's exactly what this is. So I'm now putting my version out there. And there is one or two other funny little comments that have kind of been picked up with the media along the way as well, which is great. Hopefully, I keep saying to everyone, if you buy the book, you'll get the whole story.
You will get the whole story, and I'm itching to read the book, because I have a YouTube show called The Mark Dolan Show, and it's dominated by royal gossip. And the reason,
amazing.
Yeah, the reason why is because it's just, I will be honest with you, it's, to a degree, it's entertainment, that we have the royals. It's like celebrities, it's like a soap opera. And I just feel that, folks have hard lives. People are, battling with the cost of living and everything. It's escapism, and it is a bit of a royal soap opera. But I guess it's easy to forget that there are human beings at the heart of this.
That's the thing, and I mean, that was the experience I had, is when people say to me, "Oh, you must have, there must be a very weird working for such a famous family." And as you just said, they're just like, they're human. They laugh, they cry, they heart like everybody else. And when you witness that and you're in that environment, it makes you feel lucky. But I think the one thing, Mark, also that I'm so grateful for is, as I'm sure I've said to you before, one of the main themes throughout the book is about this dream as a kid, strangely very young admirer of the royal family. And one of my earliest teenage memories after watching a documentary was I wanted to meet Queen Elizabeth. I wanted to dance with Queen Elizabeth, which did happen. And the story basically, it kind of weaves in and out, and it eventually explains how it actually happened. And it was amazing, because I did get to dance with her. But there's a wonderful, which I'm not allowed to say, but there's an amazing twist at the end. And if anybody ever talked about fate or manifesting, this is a book to read, because I believe that we've all got the ability to make things happen if we want, and that's very much what this story is about as well.
Look, we know that the royal family are quite private, quite discreet, so they probably wouldn't be delighted that there are any books about them, really, in an ideal world. But should they read the book, which I suspect a number of them will, what do you think they'll make of it?
I don't know. I'm hoping, the one thing I do start off with is by thanking the King and the late Queen for giving me the opportunity to work for them, because it was a dream come true, and I'm the first to admit I wouldn't be in such a wonderful position of doing the work that I do now if it wasn't for them, and I'm forever grateful to them for that opportunity, and I'll never stop thanking them. What I'm trying to do with this book is not trying to do what others have done. And I know some people say I have, but I'm really not trying to do the, tell the secrets. What I'm trying to do is give an insight, which is what I do in the ships. I'm trying to give an insight into what my life was like through comedy, because what a lot of people are starting to realise through Paddington and the Olympics, the Queen had comedy, and as did the King. And I'm trying to show the comedy values. It's taken the fun out of me, if anything, but it's shown the kind of funny things that I did, from hiding in cupboards to running with Queen Elizabeth along a corridor, the kind of things that you wouldn't quite believe. But they're my kind of stories, and I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't mind these stories. But the other thing I'm trying to do is try to set some records straight, which they can't really do. I think we spoke about this as well. Sometimes the royal family can't speak out because they can't, when there's things out there. And there's one or two things that I have put in there to try to, I'm not trying to back them. They do not need me backing them. They've got an amazing PR teams and everything. But what I'm trying to do is just give a version which hopefully supports a lot of what they are, things that they do and things that they say without them having to say it.
Well, that's why I thought that the Oprah interview that featured Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was so egregious, because a lot of accusations were made about the royal family, the most serious of which was the suggestion or allegation of racism, which the couple then rode back on, which I thought was telling, and then said, we meant unconscious bias in regard to, what the baby might look like when Archie's born. And that's a classic example where you have an accusation that hangs in the air, an unnamed member of the family, and there is no rebuttal for the palace, and there never will be.
Do you know, can I say, and I have friends from many countries and many backgrounds and many faiths, and so... But what I wanted to say was the conversation, if the conversation did happen, I don't really think, and this is just my view, and I could be wrong, Mark, I'm the first to admit it, but I don't think if there was a conversation, I don't think it was anything on a racist point. It might have just been a general question, which might have just been prompted in general curiosity and not through any malicious reasoning. And that I really do believe. I know this family, and I was around them, Mark. I know what they're like. So it just, that comment
look at King Charles, the Queen and King Charles's attachment to the Commonwealth.
Oh, totally. I mean, they're passionate about the Commonwealth. They're passionate about, the other countries. And as you know, even through ill health, he's still trying to carry on and visiting, other countries and trying to do his duty as monarch. And you're right, and the King's also. And it was interesting. He talked about this in the mid-90s, and he said in the mid-90s, I saw a comment about it recently. He said that he wanted to be defender of the faith, which got into all the press saying, "Oh, can we have a king that's, a defender of all faiths?" And of course, that's what he did, didn't he? He made it clear that he'd be a defender of all faiths. So he's the last person to ever, and if I can say his wife's Queen, to ever say anything that would be deemed as racist or wrong. So I just think it was just a little bit, I just think it was a bit unfair. But again, it's difficult to comment when you're not there to hear the actual conversation, but I can imagine that something has been badly misunderstood. But this is the thing with the royal family, Matt, because the damned if they do, the damned if they're not. It's a very difficult role for them, and it's almost like walking on eggshells the whole time. And that's why I'm so grateful that I've been given the opportunity through the publishers and through the media to be able to kind of talk about these things. And it's like you said a minute ago, I feel really lucky we have a royal family. So many countries have lost their royal families. I think there's only 24 in the world, and one of ours is probably, can I say, I think one of the most famous. And I feel proud to have a royal family, and I'd hate not to have it. So when people say, "Oh, books like this are going to destroy it," this is not what this is about. This is trying to say we are lucky to have a royal family, and I'm grateful. And if anyone reads it, this is the thing I'm trying to say to people: read it before you make comment. And especially, I'm thanking the royal family for the opportunity of doing what I'm doing, because if it wasn't for them, I certainly wouldn't be talking to you now.
No, and of course the royals are pragmatic, and they understand that to be talked about, and for there to be books and TV shows and podcasts and YouTube channels and discussions on Talk are actually critical for their survival. But they understand that, and that's why they're such amazing people, because they know the gig, they know the deal, just like the amazing Queen Mother when she attended to war-torn, Blitz-destroyed London. And she walked in the rubble, and there's an iconic photograph of her, meeting folk whose houses have been bombed out. And that's why the British monarchy has survived, because it's remained, in touch with British public opinion and connected with the people. And hopefully that will be ever thus. Is your book, in any sense, an answer to Prince Harry's autobiography, Spare?
I suppose, looking at the media, it seems to be a little bit like that. I think they're saying I'm clarifying the situation, which is you're quite a strong point to say that. And that's not as what I'm doing is giving my version, my memoirs, like he's done, just my account of what I remember. And I haven't gone out there to purposely try to contradict him or by any means, because as I said, he's talked about suffering from mental health. I, don't know what was going on, sometimes obviously in his mind, or there could have been conversations that I didn't witness. The problem, Mark, that I have got is that when I was around, I didn't witness it. I mean, I remember the wedding. I remember the build-up to the King's wedding, and I talk about it in the book. And I remember the excitement from both boys, William and Harry. And I remember I remember the day of the wedding and how they were driving it. The two of them were pushing and encouraging and getting everyone partying and laughing. And and as the now King and Queen drove off, I remember William and Harry getting us all outside Windsor and getting us all cheering and chasing after the car. Do you know what I mean? So it was either one of the most fantastic Oscar-winning performances, or it was genuine, and I think it was genuine. I really do. But something between obviously then and now has broken, and I don't know what. I don't know what's happened, and it's sad to see that. That's why I'm glad I get the opportunities to kind of talk about it. And the other thing that makes me sad is that the Queen's reign, if you think about it, it kind of started, or the her earliest memories were her uncle abdicating, which caused a huge crisis within the royal family. And the very end of her life, she had this other crisis, and it just seems a shame that that's how it started and how it kind of ended. But I think she also knew that it was in good hands going forward with obviously her son, and very much with William and Catherine. Most definitely, but the Queen, the late great Queen Elizabeth II, she passed away with that concern about that the book was coming, that she had to live with the knowledge that a book was coming, and couldn't be sure what damage this might do to the family and the monarchy to which she'd devoted her entire life, and that must have been so painful. Well, I tell you what, the gloves are off after the break, because I do want to ask you about Amanda Platel's article on Prince William, effectively characterising William as a little work shy. She's sympathetic that he's been supporting Catherine through her serious battle against cancer, but she paints a picture of an eventual part-time king. So we'll discuss that next. Let me tell you that Grant Harold's book is available for pre-order. I've done just that myself, and it will be a required reading, and it is quite simply called The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service. Grant Harold, Harrold. More on this next.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive. We've been looking at
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country? And
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Mark Dolan on Talk, in for Kevin O'Sullivan. I'm very excited to say that I am looking after Julia's slot tomorrow. That's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I think they call it mid-mornings in this industry. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. And so do join me, and please get your calls in at 10 a.m. When hopefully all of the world's problems will be solved. If you're worried about the world and you're getting fed up with everything, why don't you grab a copy of Grant Harold's new book? He's the Royal Butler, and his book is called The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service. Grant Harold, Amanda Platel is a feisty journalist who doesn't pull her punches. She's not very happy with Prince William at the moment, the Prince of Wales. She feels that notwithstanding that he's been supporting his wife Catherine through her cancer battle, that he doesn't do enough public engagements. And there's a suggestion that the Forest Lodge in Windsor, at Great Windsor Park, may become his forever home, including when he's king, without much of a presence at Buckingham Palace. She paints a picture, potentially, of a part-time king when William accedes to the throne. Could that happen?
Do you know, I don't think it's in the realms of impossibility, and the reason I say that, Queen Victoria's uncle, who I think was William IV, but I might be corrected in that, he lived at Clarence House during his reign as king. He didn't actually live at, well, Buckingham Palace was still Buckingham House then, but he, you know, that was his base. King Charles obviously still has Highgrove, which I live quite near to. He spends a lot of time up here. We see him quite often up here. So it doesn't surprise me this is William and Catherine's forever home, if you'd like to call that. I've also got a belief that I noticed the Queen and the King, Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen, and the King love Windsor, and they spend a lot of time at Windsor. In fact, there's been quite a few state banquets and events taking place at Windsor. And I've kind of got this feeling that Windsor's becoming the new, it is the spiritual home, if you like, of obviously the St. George, Knights of the Garter. But I'm getting the feeling that it's becoming the new kind of hub. Doesn't mean to say Buckingham Palace is surplus. Buckingham Palace will always be the monarchy. It's the home of the monarchy. It's the office of the monarch. And I think that will continue. It wouldn't surprise me if William, knowing what he's like, if he would opt for a more a house similar to the house he grew up in, Highgrove. It is quite similar to Highgrove. And again, using Windsor as the kind of, if you like, the castle and the monarch. And Buckingham, when he's in London, that would be the London office and possibly where he would stay, if not Kensington Palace. So it's not impossible, but it's not changing anything really. It's just William being practical. He's aware of the cost of living. Let's be realistic. The running of that house will be a lot cheaper than running, say, of him staying at Buckingham Palace. So he's been sensible about these kind of things as well. He's a very modern thinker, and he did say that the future of the monarchy will be royal with a small r. And I think he's just, he supports the homeless and everything, and I think he's aware that people are watching him and what he's doing, and he's a very sensible guy, and that's all he's doing, is just being very sensible.
I don't agree with Amanda Patel with the broadside that she's made about Prince William, although and I hear what you're saying about what a decent and down-to-earth guy he is. I think he's got a clear vision for a modern contemporary monarchy fit for the 21st century. But there is an issue around the perception of how active he is as a royal, isn't there?
There is. I mean, the reality is his aunt, Princess Anne, Princess Royal, I think last year she carried out 475 engagements.
475. That's more than days of the year.
Exactly. So this is the point. She works very hard, and I must say she's a great ambassador for the royal family. I'm not William, certainly. I can't remember the number, Matt, but I know he was significantly less, like a lot.
I think less than 100.
Less than 100
to Amanda Platel's article.
And I think the reason, I'm not 100% sure of the actual reasons why. I can imagine that it's probably to do with his wife's illness. I think he probably would have wanted to spend a lot of time supporting her. I almost could believe that's the reason why. He definitely reduced his duties during that period. We know that because we didn't see much of him at all. Queen Camilla suddenly stepped into the role of taking on extra duties on behalf of the king, on behalf of the Prince of Wales. I'm guessing that will now, I'm assuming that will now revert back. I don't think he's work shy at all. I think it's just the duties that he carries out and the things he does, I think he's probably maybe more, he wants to be quite specific about what he's doing and he doesn't just say yes to everything. That's what I'm guessing. Where, some of the older royals are very, they are hard working royals. They were brought up like that and they just got on with it. Well, William is a, at the end of the day, he's also a businessman. Obviously there's the Duke of Cornwall, he's got the duchy. He's also trying to find his feet, I think, because his father created, if you like, the kind of job of the Prince of Wales, which they'd never been a job for the Prince of Wales as such before. And his father created it and successfully created it. And William's suddenly having to kind of learn that role as well. So it doesn't mean to say, just because we don't see him carrying out engagements and duties, the reality is behind the scenes, he could just be working as hard as anyone else.
Yeah.
We just don't hear about it because that's the private side of his business, of the work that he does.
Well, I think so. I think he's quite focused, and I think it's less ceremonial and it's a bit less about opening hospital wings and actually making a real difference in society. And you mentioned his passion about in regard to fixing homelessness in this country. I mean, the figures in the article, Princess Anne, 474 in the last 12 months, Charles 372 appearances, and William 71. But it is, I think, quality over quantity. And here's the other thought. He's got two jobs, hasn't he? He's got to represent the royal family, and he's got his role as a frontline royal. He's also a father and a husband, and he has seen domestic meltdown in his own father's marriage. And he's had his problems with his brother, and of course even Anne, a divorce before remarrying Mark. Mark Phillips was her original husband, Tim Lawrence. So perhaps he's prioritising family life and wants to keep the family together.
Well, here's an interesting observation, Mark, because I've actually said this when I'm doing my talks about the family. Interestingly, I talk about Queen Elizabeth and about her role and her views, and obviously that famous speech on her 21st birthday in Africa. And she dedicated her life, her entire life to the service of her people. And it was known she always put monarchy above family. She was always quite frank about that. Now, what's become quite obvious in the last couple of years, and quite rightly in the modern era, is that William and Catherine very much put family and health before monarchy. Quite rightly. I mean, that's the reality of the modern world. And I think William literally takes that as the kind of future that, for his future. Monarchy is, of course, important to him. He knows it's a role that he has to fulfill one day as monarch, as king, and he will take that very seriously. I know he will. I mean, that's what he's, been trained to do. But at the same time, he's aware that just now, at this moment in time, he can still have, to a degree, a normal life. So therefore, his father possibly said to him, I want you to have still as much of a normal life as possible. So here's the royal duties you do, but when you're not doing royal duties, spend it with your family, enjoy that time, because one day he will not get that time. And that's what I think's going on.
And unlike his father, Charles, it's statistically guaranteed that William will spend a lot longer a chunk of his life as the king of the United Kingdom, as monarch, and he could be, and please God, it's not for many years to come, but we know that we know Charles is an older man and he's battling cancer, so it doesn't take a genius to work out that in the back of his mind, William knows that moment will come, and unlike for Charles, who mercifully he was Prince of Wales for a long time, whilst we had Queen Elizabeth, it's a different story for William. And then once he's king, all hell breaks loose, isn't it? And the privacy's gone, the family life will be disrupted, and
changes forever,
and instantly, overnight.
For the rest of his life, and that's when obviously he'll step up to the mark at that point. I just think his father is just giving him the break and the opportunity that he never had, and his mother never had, and it's unprecedented. But I think he's just giving him that time while he can.
Before I let you go, Prince Harry, you've got fond memories of the guy. You don't speak ill of him. You part company with him about his account of what happened in the book Spare. But do you feel that this guy has changed as a person since he got married?
The Harry, and it's interesting, Matt, because when I was doing the book, and obviously, you know, your memories, you go back to that time, and you remember things that you may have forgotten over the course of over the years, because it's 14 years since I left. And when I was thinking back to those times, and also, can I say, I know some of his friends who live local, and I've spoke to some of his friends who also don't hear from him anymore. I should mention that. They don't have any contact with him, which is extraordinary. These are close friends. And we've all agreed that the Harry that we knew in the early 2000s and the Harry now is two very different characters. Now, of course, we all grow up, we all mature, we all, you know, people do change. Of course we change. But this is quite a drastic change. And it's a very strange you know, transition, and in a very quick space of time as well. And that's what I find quite odd, because again, in my book, I talk about this fun, playful, you know, Harry, I talk about the first time I met him, he was throwing water balloons at me and chasing me around with water balloons, and that doesn't sound like the kind of Harry we've got now. You know, the Harry now is one that seems to, well, I mean, God, I mean, you'll be lucky if you don't get sued or something for doing something wrong the way it appears at the moment. So it's a very different Harry, and it's very sad, because I really don't know what has changed. I mean, I know people get different views on it, and I understand that, but deep down, I don't know what's changed. Something's changed, and it's sad, because as in my book, I just remember a very different Harry and a very different time.
I think there are maybe 3 or 4 really big royal books coming out this year, and right up there competing for #1 is The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service. And the reason why is because every other book about the royals is written by a journalist, a hack. Yeah, they've got the interviews, they've got the cuttings, but they haven't been there at first hand in the company of this unique and remarkable and important family. But Grant Harold has. The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service is out a week today, but you can pre-order now from all good bookstores, including Amazon. Grant, we'll catch up soon. Thank you for your time, and really good luck with the book.
Absolutely, and I've got to quickly say, I was quite excited to find out last night it's become a bestseller on Amazon, and it's not even out yet. So, already, so I couldn't believe it. And I've only got one copy here. I'm only allowed one copy. That's all I've been allowed.
Listen, one day you'll be allowed to give up those cruises. You know what I mean? You can stay on dry line.
I'm hoping.
Brilliant stuff. Great conversation. Your reaction to what Grant Harold had to say there, former Royal Butler, 03444991000. What are your thoughts about William? Should he live in Buckingham Palace? Are you concerned he'll be a part-time king? And is Grant right that Prince Harry is a changed man? Is there any way back for him into the royal family? It's my view, and I mentioned it on the Mark Dolan show on YouTube today, which is I think that actually the only way that he can reconcile with Charles and William is if Meghan is out of the picture. But that will be messy in itself, and I'm not sure he's got the courage to do it. Anyway, your thoughts on Harry and William and the future of the monarchy. Do you still support the monarch? Plus all of your calls on the big stories of the day. The number 0344 499 1000. It's you and me next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Folks, let's get to your calls now, and let's talk to Sophia, who is in the Netherlands, because don't forget, Talk is based in the United Kingdom, but is a global media product. You can watch us anywhere in the world on YouTube, or listen via the app, and you can go online as well. You can't get rid of us. Sophia, good evening.
Good evening, Mark.
Now, Sophia, what's on your mind tonight? The stage is yours.
I was wondering, maybe I'm a little bit bad girl or a Thatcher or something. But
well, I hope you're a bad girl. They're my favourite type.
If you agree with the United States that criminals should go back and the immigrants should go back to their own country and all those things, so do you want Ghislaine Maxwell back?
Well, that's a brilliant idea, and I don't see why not. She is a foreign criminal in the United States. I think that would be an excellent thing to establish globally, because at the moment, Sophia, the UK is housing in the region of 10,000 foreign criminals who shouldn't be in this country in the first place, and certainly not if they've broken the law.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a fair point. And do you think we'll ever get to, Sophia, do you think we'll ever get to the truth regarding Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter, of course, of the media magnate Robert Maxwell and the chief fixer and ex-girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein?
So many money going around in that business. No, never.
No. And do you think Jeffrey Epstein genuinely took his own life? This is, of course, the disgraced paedophile who was close friends with Prince Andrew, who solicited young girls for sex. So. You don't think we'll ever get to... You don't think he did? No. What do you think did happen, Sophia? Let's indulge me. What do you think the story is?
Well, I'm a bit careful in saying those kind of things. I am a Jane Doe number 969 of Riddickville. I am careful with what I say.
Well, listen, you're pretty smart for that, because I think you, on our behalf, Sophia, are keeping both of us on air. But thank you for the call. And, you know, Talk is a global show. It's watched by people around the world. And I'm delighted about that, because that's the point, is that the truth travels. And a lot of the stories that we talk about have global significance, including immigration, which isn't just a huge problem in the United Kingdom. It's a big problem in the Netherlands. It's a big problem across Europe. And it's a huge problem, or at least it was, in the United States, until the bad orange man closed the border and took what was 12 million people in 4 years entering America illegally to a trickle, a few hundred a month. Jason is in Bedford. Now, Jason, what do you think about the idea of facial recognition cameras everywhere in the event of crimes being committed?
Hi, Mark. I've actually seen these operating very badly on the corner of Tooley Street, right near where you're broadcasting from.
Is that right? Where the London Undungeons are?
No, so Tooley Street and London Bridge on the actual corner.
Right.
And I walk around the corner. I'm a tour guide, and I walk around the corner with my guests, and there it was. And they pulled a lady who was a French tourist because her face come up on their system.
Is that right?
And they were trying to work out whether she was making up the fact that she was pretending to be French or not, because they needed to check her identity against what they got of this other person. It was an absurdity. And there was 20 police officers, 3 hours work, no arrest. It's ridiculous.
So are you telling me that maybe the idea in principle is fine, but the technology is just not there yet?
I think it's the principle and the technology. I mean, I was attacked in my hometown some years ago, and I was injured really, really badly, hospitalised. And the wonderful Bedford CCTV, which has won multiple awards, one camera was switched off, the other one was turned the other way.
Oh, for goodness sakes!
So that's how it's been for me. And
I'm so sorry. What were the circumstances? Were you just out and about? Were you set upon? Are you able to tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was literally walking from my home in the town centre to get a bus to see my mum, and it was midday. in the town centre itself, and someone come up behind me and sucker punched me, as they said, and I went down on the floor, rolled over, and they started stamping on my face.
Absolutely devastating. And just if I think of how, imagine the long-term injuries you might have suffered.
Oh yeah, I have permanent nerve damage on my face.
Do you really?
Yeah, but it was, and they said it was someone with mental health disorder. They think, but they never found them, never caught them. And within 2 weeks of them actually this happening, they closed the case, just like that.
I mean, that is just that's a double insult, isn't it? And
yeah.
I'm just I can't believe what you and not just to mention the damage to the nerves in your face, but obviously that you know, did it change your mentality, and have you got sort of the mental scars from that?
Well, it was really funny because I was knocked unconscious. I was completely away from it. The only thing I wouldn't do when going out was wear headphones, because I was wearing headphones. And I didn't wear headphones for nearly a year going out, but that was the only thing. I think if I'd have been left conscious, I think that the damage would have been a great deal more. The fact I was knocked out on the second kick, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't really have much memory. I just remember coming round and seeing, of all people, my sister looking at me. Because she worked in the office behind where I got attacked. So it was just like, so I was bemused and I was literally all mixed up. And I didn't feel that fear that you would normally do. I've been mugged before, and I felt more fear from the mugging than I did from the actual physical attack.
Strange, isn't it? It's a strange. Yeah. And so, okay, you're not happy with either the principle or just the execution of facial recognition as a technology to prevent crime. You're not having that. Of course, there have been. As well as that story you mentioned about the French lady, there have been high-profile examples of people collared by the cops who were not the person they thought they were. So that is definitely a problem. But what about my other concern, which is face coverings in society? Because if I see a youth on an electric bicycle wearing either a balaclava or a mask on their face, then as far as I'm concerned, they are probably a criminal. Because why else would you cover your face? It's not a religious covering. And if I see young people, I would. And the problem I've got, you see, Jason, is I'm a big liberal, right? Libertarian. It's like you live your life, identify how you like, sleep with who you like. I couldn't care less. I don't care about the colour of your skin, your religion. I'm not interested. But the one area where I could be a bit authoritarian is to say, I'm so sorry, but in public, you're not covering your face. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. If you've got nothing to hide in that respect, in the normal realms, as it were, without the police doing their scanning with their cameras, I think you're absolutely right. And I think where the problem lies is the hangover from the bad days of COVID, because we made it the norm for people to wear masks, and young people thought, I can just do this now. And
you're right.
Yeah, that's my thoughts anyway.
I think you're right. It's a legacy of that, isn't it? It's a very fair point. And then, of course, you've got the thorny issue of religion. And there are, of course, European countries that have banned religious face coverings because they think it's against, the sort of Western sort of democratic liberal values. What about that? What if it's a religious garb that covers your face? Is that a goer for you?
I mean, I'm very split on this because something like that is actually is a religious choosing, not like. I mean, I come from a Christian background. You wouldn't. There's nothing that you wear that would be in linking with Christianity. But if people, I think they have a choosing to do that. I wouldn't want to say they shouldn't be able to do something just because of the way things are. It's like the whole thing with the protection bill for online. You don't punish everybody, or you don't punish a sector of people because it affects another sector of people. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Jason, thanks for the call and the story, and I'm really glad that you're in one piece. And it's completely appalling what happened to you. But luckily you're here to tell the story. Give me a call again soon. Your texts, tweets, your WhatsApps, and more of your calls after this.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
More of your calls shortly, but first of all, texts and then voice notes. Ernie, hi Mark, I'd be quite happy never to hear from Harry and Meghan again. They walked away from Britain and our royal family and kept their children from us. It's what they wanted. We can forget about them now. Anne in Archway says, Mark, the caller who was against Lucy Connolly was typical of shallow society, often heard now. Robotic, no experience or perspective. King Charles is a traitor, not my king, says Andy. And how about Ange, who says, hi Mark, did Grant have to get palace permission to write the book? Sounds fascinating. No, he didn't. I think he suggested, they don't really love books written about them, but as we pointed out, that's what keeps them relevant. So how about this from an unnamed viewer/listener? Hi Mark, I think a good idea for migrants is to ask farmers around the country, do they want labour to pick potatoes and strawberries, build big barns with bed cubicles and toilets and showers for them to live at the end of the farm, and then the hotels are there for homes and for mothers with kids and real vulnerable homeless people. Well, it's not a bad idea, but you give me a better idea, which is let's not have anyone entering the country illegally, and let's have the people who are of working age who don't work, and let's get them to pick the potatoes. British citizens who don't lift a finger, who you and I are paying for. Mickey has got a voice note on the Royals. Mickey, take it away.
Hi, Mark. I've just had to laugh. It's Nicky from Mansfield. You asked if Prince William's going to be a part-time king. His father doesn't believe in borders. There's no kingdom without borders. Cheers.
Yeah, old Charles is a bit woke, isn't he? Let's be honest. I can't disagree with you there, Mickey. He's kept it zipped up about net zero recently, even though he lives in these gigantic houses with enormous numbers of radiators and heaters and private jets and everything. It's one rule for them, another for us, isn't it? How about this from Jackie? Take it away, Jackie.
Hi, Mark. Jackie from Manchester. There's another casualty of the freedom of speech that we must remember, and that is Peter Lynch, who was sentenced for holding up a placard at a protest which had some conspiratorial theories on it. He wasn't convicted of violence, and he took his own life after, I think it was 8 weeks in prison. The man should never, ever have been sentenced to a custodial sentence.
Jackie, bang on and very well put. Thank you for that voice note. I'm getting to your calls in just a second, but a lot of messages to catch up on. This from Peter in Wiltshire. Hello, Pete. Pete says, hi, Mark, welcome back. I feel that Lucy Connolly is more akin to Nelson Mandela, being a political prisoner. If she'd been a lefty incarcerated for the same amount of time, they would have probably had music concerts in her benefit. I love Peter Blexley, says Joe in Wiltshire. He talks so much sense. And how about this from Joanna in Salisbury? Hi, Mark. Why do we not have supermax prison cells like in America for the Southport monster? I certainly would never give him capital punishment, as it's exactly what he wants. 7 Vestal Virgins, etc. I would remove all rights to a prayer mat and all of the rest of it. The root of his evil is his religion, says Joanna. Joanna, thank you for that. It's all about opinions. Let's get the opinions of Cindy, who is in the United States. Good evening, Cindy, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening to you, Mark. This is my first week having listened to you, and you are absolutely fantastic.
Oh, no,
I hope
Cindy.
that I get to. Yes, I hope that I get to see more of you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Well, thank you,
are
darling.
some good competition.
Oh, no. Look, well, thank you for that. You've got a naughty laugh, Cindy. You're going to get me in trouble.
I know. I was trying to. No, but you're super. You are fantastic. Love you.
Now, listen, Cindy, you're so
earlier-
kind. What's on
yes.
your mind?
Well, earlier you were asking about divorce. Like, how do you know when someone's in for a divorce? Well, I have a little brief story for you.
Oh, good.
How I found out, well, I didn't know at the time, but when your partner starts taking out of your joint account large sums of money, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So after he came home and told me, this is a long time ago, okay? But after he came home and told me on Thanksgiving Day in America, I'm never coming back and I want a divorce, something told me, bing, order bank statements. So I ordered previous bank statements from months previous, and indeed, there it was in black and white.
This
taking
is
money.
devastating.
So,
and can you tell me your emotions when you saw those bank statements, just how you felt at that moment?
One word, rage.
Yeah.
Disbelief, heartbreak, all of that. But you know what? All in hindsight, I can laugh about it because I'm in a 16-year plus marriage, and it's fantastic now.
Oh, I'm so happy. What's he
know,
called? What's the lucky man's name, Cindy?
Jacob.
Lovely Jacob.
Yes, we're both watching you. We both adore you.
Oh well, listen, you're so kind. I tell you what, you can come back. Look, Cindy, thank you so much for that. And look, we're very excited to have a viewer in the United States. That is the point of talk, is that we're in Britain, but so many of the issues are global. And of course, the way that you can watch the show, you can see it anywhere in the world on YouTube or online. And a man that's got a global talent is Andre Walker. Okay, he's too big for Britain, really, if I'm honest with you. He transcends these islands.
Mark, let me just say to you, I love you to bits, but that was a mistake, wasn't it? It's good to see you back. That was not a good idea, leaving.
Let's talk.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, I'm like that. Have you never heard of the Bible, the prodigal son?
The sideways step. Right.
I did a Prince Harry. I went a bit Prince Harry for a little while.
I want to say this to you. Can you remember the last time that we did this was on the very, very sad day of the London terrorist attack, and James Whale couldn't come in, so I had to be Asher Gould and you had to be James Whale. So the last time we've sat like this is almost exactly the same situation. We're glad to have you back, Mark.
Well, listen, I'm so thrilled to be back, and it's an honour. It's a very special place, and it's the most interactive news platform in the country.
Absolutely.
All right, and because there's other places that do lip service to it and all the rest of it. And listen, I've enjoyed listening to you and watching you. Unfortunately, you've become a star since I last saw you, which is very annoying.
Yeah, because the last time, remember,
you've gone all showbiz.
I wanted us to sit next to each other like Asher and James Whale did, and it was you that refused, you little
my agent dealt with that situation. And who, by the way, is I think she seems to. I don't know if she's died or retired or what. But the phone stopped ringing. I don't know why.
We had to run up 14 flights of stairs, which actually was easier for you because you're on that keto thing, aren't you?
Yeah.
I had to be fed intravenously.
No, for me, it's all about fat burning. You know, my body's a temple. And I heard, is this true? You're off the sauce at the moment.
Yes. Do you know the reason?
Liver failure?
No, gout. I'm not joking. Every time I drink, my toes. I think my liver's gone, and it just uses the joint of my big toe to do the filtering because it goes big and red and hot.
Yeah, well, I heard something was getting bigger and redder, but I didn't know.
Well, having you here, the table's lifting. I'm telling you.
I'm glad. Well, listen, I tell you what, you're one of those people, right? You don't need any kind of medicaments, do you?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I mean, the idea of giving narcotics to you.
I think the thing was, I think if I ever had a drink before going on air, I think it made me more mellow and sane. I'm like this.
It equalised you a little bit. Well, listen, it's going to be a big 3 hours, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to it.
Talk about, it's whatever happened to the quiet August, the silly season.
I just think that this great speed up is the thing that's happening, this concept that in 24-hour news like this, we're going to have problems in politics all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just a speed up. Because in the past, Profumo scandal probably took 18 months. It would have taken 3 days this year, wouldn't it?
You're so right.
You would have had it all out there straight away.
That's the funny thing with scandals. Then they are incredibly intense and utterly disastrous, and then suddenly it's
forgotten.
Even Hugh Edwards, right? Hugh Edwards now goes to Waitrose and buys little mini bottles of champagne. Did you see that in the paper?
I did not see that.
Yeah, he's out because he's still spending our money from the license
of course
fee.
he is.
Didn't go to jail, of course, suspended sentence. And
had he, I mean, the irony is, had he said something rude about somebody rather than downloading filth, he'd have been fine.
Well, that's the great
he'd have
irony.
gone to prison rather.
That is the great irony. Now, listen, I'm told you've been in since this morning preparing the show. Is that right?
Yes.
Well done. Good. You'll get the hang of this one day. So listen, what's really like grinding your gears tonight?
Let me tell you something. I haven't bothered bringing in the running order because I was just doing my YouTube channel, but I'm sure the show will be excellent, and I'm hoping that people will hang out.
Sometimes,
Mark, I was just so surprised, so amazed and delighted to see you that I thought I wouldn't bother talking about the show in advance. It's not that I haven't bothered bringing the paperwork and